everyone. Welcome to the Transatlantic call-in show, the show where you can call in and you can ask questions about trans people to trans people, or even argue with trans people about trans people. Basically, if you want to talk about trans people, this is the show. And this week you can talk to me, Katy Montgomerie, and also the amazing
Dr. Ben, who has I started residency this week, so I'm actually
literally doctor,
officially working
doctor
as a doctor now, which is super weird, but it's happening.
That's pretty exciting. So obviously that means now we have a doctor on the show. It's a good time to call in with your medical questions about trans people for non-medical advice, because we don't give out medical advice here unless Ben wants to put his reputation on the line. But you can call in on 720-619-2288, or you can click the link in the description and call in for free on the internet, assuming you have internet access, which, as you're watching this, you probably do. But yeah, it should be a good time. There's a few spaces on the line, so if you call in right now, you'll probably get onto the show. Our lines do fill up super quickly. And also, if you'd like to contribute to the show in a different way, you can also send in a super chat of $5 or more, and we will read it out at the end of the show. And we will fail to read your name properly, and we will misread the words, and we will get excited when it says #Team Katy, and otherwise we will be despairing because they are the only worthwhile super chats. Isn't that right, Ben?
I don't know if I agree with that, but you're allowed to be wrong, and you're allowed to speak as we'll get into the poll later. I'm not going to disclose everything with that, but you are apparently entitled to your freedom of speech and your philosophical opinions, even if they're incorrect. So,
well, actually, I live in the UK, so I am not. We don't have that here.
Oh, that's
right.
If
you're a trans person and you say something that a rich gender critical person doesn't like, then they just send loads of money threats at you and lawyers and stuff, and then you have to take it back and apologize to them and say the opposite of what you think, because that's the only way this country is allowed to function, apparently. But yeah, I've kind of skipped over the how was your week thing because I realized that I was meant to say the number at the start. But how exciting is it being a real residency doctor, or whatever it's called?
Yeah. Most of this week has all... No, I've not. Well, because I'm in processing right now because I'm with the military, so it's been a lot of going through all this red tape to get credentialing and get security clearance and all that stuff. It's super fun. I'm trying to get used to military customs again because that's an interesting thing. I'm not used to being saluted or saluting other people frequently and having to greet people in the hallway. There's a lot of fun customs and courtesies that we do that I'm getting used to again, but it'll become normal soon enough, and we'll be good to go. And I'll just cry every day once I start seeing patients, but it'll be fine. But how was your week?
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's nice and summery here in the UK. This is one of our 2 good weeks of the year, and so I feel a bit grumpy that I'm stuck inside doing a show rather than just outside enjoying the weather. But it's pretty good. I'm also excited because nerd alert. There's a new Pokemon card set coming out tomorrow, and I'm really hyped for it. But we don't need to talk about Pokemon cards on this show. so
well, it seemed like it seemed like the weather was nice when I was there, but I don't know. Was that not nice weather?
Yeah, it was okay. So I guess I wasted both of the 2 good weeks of the UK. One doing this fucking show, and one having to tolerate you. So,
my apologies.
Round. This year is basically over already, is what I'm saying. Roll on 24.
Yeah.
But you've heard enough about our weeks. Let's talk about you, the viewers' week, voting for our poll. That was the worst segue you've ever heard. We ask a question every week, and the question we asked last week was, given that we know breastfeeding is the same from trans and cis women, do you still have objections to it? Obviously a very loaded question because when there's science behind it, who really cares what you think unless you're a doctor? But that was our last week's question. Ben, what did you think? How do you think these results go?
Yeah, I did a whole live stream just a few weeks ago about embryology, and my whole stream was about why we don't all start off as phenotypically female, which is an interesting thing because I actually had a guy that was kind of trolling my comment saying, but if we didn't start off as female, then why do men have nipples? And so I had to explain in my stream like how that happened and why nipples are a sex neutral trait and how breast tissue is a sex neutral trait. Was where the pathway is where we get reproductive anatomy is a totally separate pathway than how we get breast tissue. So in early embryology, the kind of breast tissue development is all the same between all people. And then it's estrogen influence that causes ducts to grow later on. And you get differences even with that with menstrual cycles and those different hormonal inputs. But if you take anybody, it doesn't matter what their chromosomes are. If you give them that same hormonal input at those stages of development, they're going to develop as the phenotype of those hormones. So if you have someone that was like genotypically male in utero, and you give them estrogen, I mean, like if they were exposed to estrogen early on, then you're going to get female breast growth and you're going to get the same ducts that you would in a female. So the fact is like it is the exact same process for cis and trans people to lactate. And we do have cis men that lactate. And a lot of them, it's very dysphoric for a lot of them because they don't want to lactate. And that's completely hormonal. But we do have treatments that we use often. I think you can use some puberty blockers even to shut down that pathway to stop them from lactating. But yeah, it's when you get that hormone input, and if you like, there are certain therapies that we can do for trans people to lactate in the exact same way that cis people do. The only difference maybe is the amount that they would be able to produce. But yeah, I have no objections to it at all. It is anatomically, physiologically identical. So there's no reason to be opposed to it.
Yeah, but trans people are yucky, so I think maybe that's why we should ban it, right?
Yeah, apparently.
Like, obviously, we can do all this doctrine stuff and understand how the body works, but I don't even think you need that. Like, I don't see why it isn't obvious. As soon as you like understand what puberty does in people, it's like your body gets full of a load of hormones and then it changes shape. Like that, everyone who's older than like majority of people who are over 15 have experienced that. And like, why can't you imagine that happening to other people? And then as soon as you look, like, I understand that some people think all trans women just have fake breast implants, which is fine if some do. If that's what you've got, then that's cool. But people only think that because of, prejudice stereotypes. But as soon as you learn that trans women can grow breasts, surely people must think, oh, yeah, that's because breast growth is caused by hormones. Like what other thought process is there? I just feel like unless you've got some rabid disgust of trans people that you're desperately trying to validate by ignoring every single piece of information that you ever experience, it's just obvious, is it not? I don't know. I feel like I worked that out long before I knew anything about trans people or came out to myself as trans or anything. Yeah, it just seems like transphobia versus common sense as usual.
Though there's something else here that wasn't specifically part of this kind of conversation, because I know this particular poll is referring to trans women who lactate and breastfeed their babies. But there's also been some posts going around recently talking about trans men who breastfeed their babies, and people being very disgusted and saying, well, but how come you're allowed to be on testosterone and like breastfeed? Like, you do know that, like, number one, if this is their biological baby, they wouldn't have been on testosterone throughout the pregnancy. They would have had to stop that. And a lot of those changes that they have are not easily reversible after taking testosterone. So a lot of those trans men that are breastfeeding are not currently on testosterone. So it's a complete non-issue. But people just take whatever they think to be the case and just run with that instead of really thinking about what actually went into this situation. But it's people are disgusted on both sides, and it's really kind of terrible. Like, what are you going to think about a cis woman with PCOS who is breastfeeding her baby? Like, is that disgusting because they have higher levels of testosterone? Like, you're just arbitrarily making lines for who you're disgusted by and who you're not disgusted by.
Oh yeah, I mean, in the end, and I really think that it's kind of interesting how my journey of understanding transphobes has gone, because I think when I had this kind of like my first impression, I was like, oh, transphobia is just the same as homophobia. It's just people who think trans people are bad and they're wrong. And then I was like, oh no, I understand the gender critical argument. I understand the TERF argument. I understand like the conservative argument. Like, they're actually different reasonings and they've got this logically consistent worldview. They just have different premises. And then I like borrowed in a bit further and I was like, well, they don't have logically consistent worldviews, but they have general themes which are consistent within the themes, even if the themes come. And I was like, actually, no. And then I just got back. I mean, it's just a fact. Like, if you talk to someone who is transphobic enough and you just ask them enough questions about their worldview, it will just be a mess. They don't even have consistent themes. And in the end, literally, they just have one core premise: trans bad. And everything else is either there to make that premise look like it has justifications, or is something that is based on that premise. They're the only things they have. And if they contradict each other, it doesn't matter. If they come across a piece of evidence which contradicts that premise, then they just throw it away. And so when you're like, oh, but what about women, cis women with PCOS? Or, oh, well, what, trans men, actually, you think they're female, so what's your issue here? Or, well, actually, testosterone. They don't give a fuck about any of that. Trans people are just disgusting to them. So when trans men breastfeed, it's disgusting. And when trans women breastfeed, it's disgusting, because the common theme here is trans bad. Like, nothing else matters at all. And yeah, totally come full circle on this. If you think that transphobes literally just think trans people are disgusting and that's it, then you're correct. Anyway, man, I'm proper in rant mode today. I saw a Ben Shapiro tweet just before this, and my God, is he stupid? He is so thick. Fucking hell. Anyway, and it got me into rant mode. We have a new question this week. Ben, you want to read out the question and I'll explain what's going on? Or do you know what this is?
Yeah. I looked it up before this, so I am kind of familiar. So this is it Oxfam? Is that how pronounced it? Yeah. Oxfam apologized to TERFs for calling them TERFs. Should Oxfam have capitulated by apologizing to the TERFs? And I think, maybe correct me if I'm wrong. It was something there was a cartoon depicting a woman, a very angry woman with a TERF sticker on it, and the TERFs got mad, and so they apologized. I'll let you expand more, but did I see the right thing?
Yeah, that is it. Okay. I feel like I've got to get this image up now because it's just so funny. But basically, someone did a little Pride Month like thing saying, trans people suffer discrimination and their lives are harder because of it, and just a generic. And it was just animated like some kind of colorful cartoon thing. And in it, I think I've got the picture up here. Hang on, let me just get it up. So can we full screen this? Or, well, you can see that page. So this was a still from it that lasted like one whole second. And it's saying trans people and LGBT people here, like the rainbow in the middle, are preyed on by hate groups online and offline. And here we have 3 people who represent the hate groups. And this middle one has a badge that says TERF. And I wouldn't have even thought about this like a second time. I would have just glanced at it and been just like, yeah, whatever. But the transphobes all thought that picture was J.K. Rowling. And they reckon like some angry person with a TERF badge, they instantly were like, oh, that must be J.K. Rowling. And then they got angry about it. So they made a huge fuss, which is obviously just fucking nonsense. And who gives a shit? And the cartoon is completely right. Trans people are targeted by hate groups like TERFs and gender criticals and J.K. Rowling, because they want to take away our rights. And then for some reason, presumably a legal threat, but we won't ever know. Oxfam apologized for using the word TERF and said they got something wrong and they're hearing concerns and, just the standard gender critical bullshit. And it's just so pathetic. Like, you did a little cartoon to stand up for trans people, and then you got the mildest pushback of all time. And then you couldn't, like, if a human rights charity can't stand up to abuse on Twitter from transphobes, how is some 16-year-old kid supposed to stand up to these disgusting people? Like, the whole point in having human rights charities is so they do stand up for the little person. That's literally why they exist. And they can't even hold their ground on some crap cartoon. It's just pathetic. It's just so pathetic.
Right, and weren't they accused of like being ageist or something too? Because like people got mad that the TERF woman was like older and a woman, and so they're like, this is sexist and ageist because you're depicting this person as a TERF.
When there was this film screening planned for Edinburgh of some gender critical film, and they put it on in some room, and a load of LGBT people and feminists like did a holding hands blocking off the doorway so they couldn't go. And so then the university moved it to another room, like the other side of the university, and they announced it like, it's no longer in room 1, it's in room 59 or whatever. And so all of the LGBT people and feminists everyone ran to this other room. But because of the average age difference between gender criticals and, pro-LGBT people, the pro-LGBT people got their first and formed a new line, and they accused them of being ageist in response for running faster than them. So, like, again, you need to understand that these people will just say fucking anything. I mean, that cartoon picture of those 3 people, they could be any age. They're just adults, probably, in that picture. I mean, one of them's wearing a tie, and the lady looks like she has boobs. So they're adults, and they could be any age. So it's just nonsense. All this is a mainstream, well-known international charity did an anti-gender critical message. The smallest little part pointed out just the truth that gender critical people and TERFs prey on LGBT people online and offline. And then they got bullied by it so bad by the British establishment and probably rich people that they backed off, and that's just it. And it's just pathetic. I have like utter contempt for the people involved in that decision. Like, Oxfam's a generally good charity, and if you donate to them, don't pull out just because of this. But man, if whoever made that decision can fuck off. It's so pathetic. Like, zero respect for you. Anyway, mate, I'm in rant mode. Let's get on some dickheads.
Let's do it.
So if you would like to call in, you're going to have to now wait until we finish a call because our lines are full, and we're going to try and get to as many of these callers as we possibly can. Remember, you can send a super chat of $5 or more. Ben, do you have a preference for any of these callers here? Perhaps should we, seeing as you were just doing some hormone talk, do you want to get straight into the medical one?
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
All right, let's do it. Let's talk to Nikki in Michigan, who is wondering about the effects of feminizing hormones and collagen on connective tissue. Nikki, what's your question?
Hi. Well, first, a little bit of background. I was recently diagnosed with something called hypermobility spectrum disorder, which, for those who don't know, it's believed by some researchers to be essentially the same clinical entity as hypermobile type Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And which means I have a lot of like joint problems, loose joints and subluxations and stuff. And I was wondering about, because I'm a trans woman, but I'm not on HRT yet. I was wondering about the effects of hormones on that and how that might possibly make things worse for folks like me.
Yes, I want to preface this with I am a doctor. I am not your doctor. I don't know your medical history. I don't know your specific condition. I cannot give you specific medical advice, nor will I attempt to. Do you have somebody that, do you have an endocrinologist that you can see about your specific questions? I want to make sure that you have that in place.
I actually have to schedule an appointment with them. And in fact, they just tried to call me while I was waiting on the line here. So
okay,
to schedule
yeah,
an appointment with them. I do have a referral for them already.
Yeah, they're going to be the ones that, of course, you're going to want to talk to because they're the experts on this. There's a lot of, I'm looking at just for general information. I've got an article pulled up this is actually from a journal about aging, but they have an article on the effect of estrogens and the potential role of SERMs, talking about, this is primarily related to skin, not as much of the ligaments and things, but they've got some descriptions on how estrogen impacts kind of synthesis of collagen and keratin and things. And there's a lot of in-depth information because it looks like there's, depending on receptor activity in different parts of the body, there's going to be in a lot of places inhibition of collagen synthesis. So some breakdown leading to that kind of softer skin that we like to think of when you're on estrogen. But then in other tissues, there's maybe some like increase in other types of I don't even know what protein they suggested, but there's a lot of nuance here. It looks like in kind of which receptors are affected in which areas. I personally would want to read more about this before I gave you any more information on that specifically. But is that your biggest concern? Is your particular medical issue and the estrogen?
Kind of. I was also, because I was thinking of not only, like, when I go on HRT, I was thinking not only going on estrogen, but also progesterone as well. But also, taking the testosterone blockers too, because I know testosterone, generally speaking, can lead to increased muscle mass, which helps to tighten up those loose joints. So
see, it does.
I'm also kind of afraid.
There's also, there's some things that you can do, and you'll have to talk to your healthcare team about what's going to be best for you. But if you think about when we're messing with our hormones, right? Like, we're not completely making you devoid of testosterone. We're not making you we're not skyrocketing your estrogen levels. Like, we're bringing you within average levels of a cis woman, right? So there's still testosterone activity in cis women, and especially women who are athletic. You can build a little bit of your testosterone levels even with exercise. So you naturally see some more athletic cis women with higher levels of testosterone. But like, we're not taking away your ability to strengthen your muscles or your bones or anything like that. Like, it seems to be a flawed method of thinking about this, where people think that when we're inhibiting testosterone, we're inhibiting like all of it. Like, no, we're just bringing down your levels to a cis woman. So I think this is a hard call to kind of take on the air, just because I don't want to give you any false information, especially when I don't know you. Right. So I hope a little bit of that helped, and I hope that at least you don't have as much anxiety knowing that like we're not completely like throwing off your hormones. Like, there are cis women with your particular medical condition, and if I have to hypothesize, it's going to end up mimicking more like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think the piece of advice I'd give is that there are some people out there. I mean, with a lot of trans healthcare, it's understudied. It doesn't really make anyone any money, so no one really studies it much. And there are going to be some combinations of rare conditions with HRT where we just don't have all the answers. But there are some doctors out there who are very knowledgeable and care, and are knowledgeable not just about specific conditions, but about trans people and sort of like hormones and how those things overlap in general. And also there are some doctors who are obviously just full on hate trans people and want to wipe us out. But there are a lot who are just in the middle, and they might say something like, oh, these two things might overlap, so I don't want to risk it. And I don't really think transition's that important, so I'm just going to say you can't transition or something. Or they'll say, oh, it might be really bad. It might make your condition really bad. And that kind of thing can really fill you with worry or really depress you. But it's important to remember to, like, I think as a trans person, get a second opinion is just even more important than normal. And I don't think that I really fully understood it until I came up against some quite aggressive anti-trans bullshit when I was trying to get healthcare. But there are just people who do not give a fuck or who want to stop you from transitioning. I mean, sometimes people go in and say, I want to transition. I want to start, testosterone or estrogen. And the doctors are like, oh, you're too fat, or, oh no, you're too old or something. It might cause cancer, and then they just write it off and they just say, no, you can't transition at all. And then they go and talk to someone else and they're like, what? Of course you can transition now. Like, I mean, no one else is held back by those things.
Yeah, I think with that, like, it goes back to the fact that people think that this is like an all or nothing change. And like, yeah, we can hypothesize, and we have these studies that suggest, okay, yeah, we know that estrogen has effects on collagen production, but to what degree and what dosages are needed to affect collagen production this much? And that's a thing that people don't think of, especially when we enter debates with people talking about puberty blockers or any medication that they don't understand. They think that any amount is going to do the same things to every person. And like, it's not an all or nothing thing. They're very precise measures and like how we use this. And that's something that needs to be factored in here. Like, so if you have a physician that says, no, this is too dangerous, like, and they say just some broad statement that this is going to mess up your collagen production, it's like, okay, but are they familiar with to what degree is this going to affect it? Like, how much of the mechanism is actually affected? Like, is there a plateau in where it'll increase like or decrease significantly, and then like once you hit a certain dose it'll just like plateau? There's a whole bunch of factors that aren't taken into consideration, and this is why intuition is terrible for medicine. I absolutely hate when people just like think about what they think something is going to do and then don't actually study it. So yeah, I would agree with Katy and say like definitely get multiple opinions, especially if you have access to an endocrinologist that is familiar with your condition and then also does a lot of gender affirming care. Like, because I think like the majority of endos will do it, but not every endo like is frequently doing it. And so some endos are going to be more well-read than others, and some are going to be more likely to prescribe HRT than others. So yeah, I think I would agree with Katy and say, get multiple opinions if you need to, but it shouldn't be a solid no. It should just be, here are the risks that we expect, and we're going to watch for them, but you get to make the decision.
And how to mitigate them. Yeah. So I guess, the general advice is don't be put off going into it if you get unlucky and meet someone who's overly negative. But that doesn't obviously mean just keep searching until you find someone who tells you what you want. It can be a difficult balance, but generally you get a vibe for whether someone is happy to help trans people, doesn't really care, or disgusted. And just be aware of that and don't blindly trust every doctor you meet. Yeah, sorry we can't give you expert medical advice.
No worries. The advice helped, and it helped to put me at ease at least. So thank you.
Good. And sorry that you missed getting expert advice by calling our show and getting idiot advice, but
Sorry, I'm a lot more helpful off air, but I have to be careful, so I hope you understand.
All right. Well, thank you for taking my call.
That's okay. Thanks for calling. That was a good call. Obviously, quite difficult with some rare conditions overlapping, but I mean, there's only one way to find out, I guess. I don't know. Science.
Yeah, maybe I need to do a study on it. I don't know. I'm thinking about what research I'm going to do in residency, so options.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. So, next, let's talk to Alex in America, who says that using hormones and surgery isn't the best first option to treat trans people. Alex, do you want to explain what this means? Alex, are you there? Okay, maybe Alex is away researching other options.
I have my thing muted for a second. You hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Hi, Alex.
Hey, sorry about that. Before we start, I wanted to just ask you what your favorite metal album is. I know you're a big metalhead. So.
My favorite album of all time? That's a really difficult question. I'm going to go with Scenes from Memory Part 2, or Metropolis Part 2, Scenes from Memory by Dream Theater, because it's like such an all-rounder. It's like a prog masterpiece. The shred on there is top-notch. It's very good.
Yeah, I like, actually, my favorite album is probably either Queensryche, Operation Mindcrime, or Images and Words, but I'm a big prog fan.
Mate,
yeah, so now we got out of the way.
I just got to say before you start, I saw Dream Theater play all of Images and Words start to finish, back to back. It's so good. Anyway, Alex, do it. Tell us why we shouldn't have healthcare or whatever.
All right, so I'm just going to start this off by saying exactly what I am. When I was younger, I had gender dysphoria. Okay, so I was an autogynephile. I know you guys pretend like we don't exist, but it was something I wanted to do, and I had cases where I would not be able to take a shower because I wanted to be a woman and I wanted to have a vagina. Okay, so this stuff, I didn't believe in the current concept of gender, where someone who identifies as a woman is a woman, and that whole ontological claim exactly back then. And that might have helped me choose this option. But I basically use a combination of cognitive behavioral therapy to manage suicidal ideation and exposure therapy to get me used to seeing my body the way it actually is in my mind. Okay. Now, I know you guys are very against anything but HRT and gender-affirming care for surgeries. And I have to ask, first of all, do you think there is even a possibility that there is another option? Like
okay, I have questions. Oh. I have questions right away because, I can tell you're not familiar with managing any kind of healthcare at all. Just by the way that you're talking about this.
I'm talking about psychological.
Yeah. So
gender dysphoria.
So the assumption, and because I'm gonna tell you no. So I'm gonna tell you kind of what the issue is with what you said, because I know your argument is going to a place of what if, essentially. It sounds like you're trying to get to a place of what if conversion therapy isn't so bad. But before we get to that part, it sounds like listen, here's the thing.
Christian...
No, here. So here's my issue with this is saying that because you went through, you're talking about adding psychological options and then saying that you're asserting that our argument is that HRT and surgery are like the first line and the only thing that we do, which is not really correct because it's kind of standard practice that we do care for psychology, and it's still recommendation that while we're deviating away from requiring psychological intervention before being able to consent for things like HRT and surgery, it's still recommended in guidelines to have therapy and to be able to work through some other things, because just everybody should get therapy. I'm of that camp, that I think everybody can benefit from being able to talk to somebody and from being able to work through that stuff. But to suggest that these are dichotomies, like this is a dichotomy between medication and surgery versus psychological treatment, is flawed, because they're supposed to all be utilized together. And especially when you talk about one thing being preferred treatment just as a standard over another, like we have to talk about for what population. Like when we're talking about any kind of so when we're talking about any kind of healthcare guidelines, it's almost never a universal standard, right? Like if I say, like let's take colon cancer screenings, right? Like I can't say that it's everybody should get a colonoscopy for colon cancer screenings, because that's not everybody has the same risk. Not everybody has the same medical history or concerns or ability to consent. Like that's different. Like, so when we say like colon cancer screening recommendations, we have tiers for this is recommended for populations of ages 50 and older. I think now that particular is going down to 45, and some people are saying 40. So it's like you have this very specific age group. You've got sociological and economic factors going into this, like different people groups that have been studied to have certain risk factors for certain things. And so the guidelines vary. So like, even if we're talking about trans people in general, we can't really do that, right? Because are we talking about trans adults? Are we talking about trans teens, trans children? Like there's no broad guidelines because they're very different populations. So to say like, if you were to ask me, what is, if you're going to see a trans patient, what is your mode of treatment going to be? And my response to that is like, which population, what patient am I seeing? Because if I have an adult that they have the ability to make an informed consent decision, I'm going to say, do your therapy at the same time, like make sure that you're psychologically okay, but also I'm going to give you an HRT prescription. And also, do you want surgery? What kind of surgeries are you thinking about? Let's talk about what you want and what the risks are and all of that. And that's a decision I know an adult can make for themselves. But if we're talking about children, that's different. I'm not going to adhere to the same healthcare standard for children because of the issues with consent, because of the issues with development. Like they're totally different populations, right? So I have my big issue here is trying to assert that trans healthcare is across the board all the same thing when we have to dial into very specific population groups. So like with what your argument now, which group are you specifically talking about? What are the parameters on these guidelines that you're wanting us to change?
Okay, well, specifically, I'm talking about adolescents from basically. Well, let's just talk about this for a second. Let's just say you have gender dysphoria and you want to actually get surgeries to treat your body. Okay, you want to make your physical body line up with your mental
population? No, which population? Because it's handled differently.
This is a problem with every single group of this thing. Okay,
handled differently though. No, it's not handled the same for all these populations. Pick one. What you're trying to do, what you're doing, and what a lot of people do
I'm going to talk about adults right now. Okay, let's talk about someone who's 18
so
years
before
of age,
you get into this, I do want to make sure that you're not going to make this argument, because often what people do is they'll blur these lines between the populations so that they can make false statements. Like they'll say that children are getting surgeries when they mean a 16-year-old, but they want you to think they're talking about a 4-year-old.
Okay, colloquially,
a 16-year-old is an adolescent that has decision-making capacity in a lot of states and a lot of countries. So you cannot blur the lines between a 16-year-old and a 4-year-old. Those are different populations, different guidelines, different considerations. So that's why I want you to define this clearly. I know what an adolescent is. I know what a juvenile is. Okay. And I know the adolescent medical definition for this stuff is, by the way, like anyone who's like 11 and up, basically, or 10 and up. It's between ages, generally, 11 at lowest boundary, usually between 12 and 16.
By the way, the medical
even can go up to 26 for some definitions of adolescence.
Tanner stage 2, which is like at the earliest, depends on like precocious puberty or not.
Well, we don't consider them adolescents at that age. Why, Alex? Why are you trying to mansplain my own job to me? Like this is literally my field.
So
you are a gender specialist.
Do you guys Do you guys?
I'm not a gender
mind if I
specialist.
jump
I'm a
in?
family medicine physician. No, yeah, one sec. I have to yell at him real quick.
You do it.
No, I am a family medicine physician. I am trained in all of family medicine. Like, I am not a gender specialist. Like, this is my job.
Okay, well,
And if you have questions about what the definitions are and how we manage this, like, you can ask that. But do not tell me what my job is and what I do and what my guidelines are, unless you're going to back up your own credentials on why I should listen to you and not the AAFP.
What if they're like me? Okay, what if they're like me and they can actually, if they can actually, dysphoria can actually be treated by therapy alone instead of having to go through surgery and treatment? What percentage of population do you even hypothetically think could be like that? Because I think of it, even if it's 10%, okay, and that's an astonishing low number it could possibly be, okay? If even 10% of the people wouldn't have to go through surgery, wouldn't have to become a lifelong medical patient by going on cross-sex hormones for the rest of their lives.
Okay, so, but everybody's a lifelong patient. Everybody's a lifelong patient, though.
I'm not taking any medication right now. I'm not a lifelong patient for any.
Yeah, do you get preventative? Do you get vaccines? Do you get preventative health care? Do you
had other,
have sports injuries?
Years ago.
Alex,
by the way, a vaccine is not.
Hang on, Alex. You had other treatment though, didn't you? Like there were in your. If we just accept your position, if there's some people who think they're trans and they're not, or maybe some people who are gender dysphoric who can be cured of it, in quotes, then you undergo some other treatment. You're proposing treatment 1 is transition and treatment 2 is
treatment 2 is talk therapy where you can.
Yeah. I'm just saying. Okay, so but
my dysphoria went away in like 2 years flat. Okay, this is
okay, Alex.
From what
I'm not confronting you on that. Let's just. I'm happy to accept that for this little bit of the discussion. If you say we said there were 10% of the people who could do that, and then 90% of the people who can't, you're saying, well, surely it's worth trying with all of them first, because maybe we'll cure that 10% first. But the thing is, the way you're presenting
what's the risk of actually going through these surgeries? If you're given cognitive behavioral therapy, that is across the board. It is a very wide range. It's used to treat
Alex, surgery is not the first thing we're giving people. That is not a first-line therapy. So you need to stop saying that.
No, it's hormone blockers.
The reason why I'm saying this,
hormones, and then it's surgery years down the road.
Hang on. What I'm trying to do is I'm pointing out, obviously, there is some cost to transition to treatment 1. There is some cost to it. There is, things like physical cost.
Let's actually go through the cost of it. Okay,
Alex, hang on. No, hang on, Alex.
Alex, you need to listen. You need to listen.
I'm trying to steel man your argument here and explain my position and just give you, I'm trying to reach out and do some benefit of the doubt here. I've muted you just to explain my position before we can go on and have a discussion. Let's just say that every single treatment, whatever it is, has a benefit and a cost, or risk reward, or however you want to describe it. And that's true for anything. And some of them, the benefits are very low or effectively zero, and some of them, the risks are very low or effectively zero. And what we're saying here is we have this one group, and we can't tell them apart easily. We can't just measure their length of their arm or whatever and see whether they're in your hypothesized group of trans people which can be cured of dysphoria, the 10%, and those who can't. So you're saying, well, why don't we just give them all treatment 2, and then if that doesn't work, we do treatment 1? And I'm saying that both treatment 1 and 2 have costs, and they both have at least theorized benefits in this situation. So I'd say, well, you can't just say, oh, we should give everyone 2 years of therapy trying to talk them out of being trans first, and then let them transition, as if that doesn't have a cost, because that absolutely does have a cost for the 90% in your numbers, though we don't actually have any kind of idea. And I'm not actually conceding that there are people like this who exist. And I would like to go into that more in a second, but you can't just say treatment 2 has no cost if we just do it first to everyone. And I think we've just got to look at the reality of this and look at the science and do some doctoring. And I mean, the reality is that, I think conversion therapy of any sort, and I know conversion therapy has this really negative, shock therapy, Christian praying the demon out of you stuff. But really, conversion therapy is any therapy where the goal is to change you in some way, like change your sexuality or change your gender dysphoria or anything like that. So even if we take away the word conversion therapy and we call it exploratory therapy or whatever the new buzzword is, what we're doing here is proposing a therapy which tries to see if you can convince someone out of being trans for 2 years. Like, we know that causes harm to the people who are denied healthcare for 2 years. Even just denying someone treatment for 2 years is itself a cost. But also we know that these talk therapies for a lot of people are harmful. So this is the reason why we can't just say, well, it's not free. We don't just get nothing for it. It's not like, oh, we'll inject you with this and wait 15 minutes, and if it hasn't worked, then we'll do the surgery. It's like, we're going to do 2 years of denying you healthcare that 90% of the people here benefit from, and in that time, we're also going to be trying to convince you're someone else. That's the argument here that I'm trying to present, and that's why I don't really feel like we need to go straight into the details of what age someone gains medical consent at, because the structure, the logical structure of the argument, you're missing a key part of it, I think. Do you see what I'm saying here, Alex? I'm just going to bring you back in 1 second. You are back.
Therapy and there. Wait, what? Can you hear me?
Were you talking the entire time?
No. Sorry, Alex, I had you muted for my explanation. You're back.
Well, okay. So this is not conversion therapy, and listen, what I'm talking about is the same exact standards of, this doesn't change a person's gender identity exactly. This isn't even trauma that. If you're still trans and you go through this stuff, this is, these therapies, they will still allow you to.
Do they though? Look, who's doing them? What is this though? Yeah, I can hear you.
Look, I did this.
You're talking about this treatment as if it's some established thing, but I mean, it's not, is it?
It's the exact same standards people use for body dysmorphia, basically. CBT has been used for body dysmorphia for.
CBT is very general. Like, cognitive behavioral therapy can definitely benefit trans people, but I mean, it depends what exactly you're doing. If you're saying, like, if you invite someone in and they're like, I've got gender dysphoria and I want to talk through it, and they're like, great, let's talk through it. Let's explore where this is, what this is doing, where this, you feel like this is coming from. Let's explore that. That's cool. But if you're mandating 2 years of therapy that has the goal of making it so someone doesn't need to transition, then that is the definition of conversion therapy. Like, it's the difference between let the patient lead and try and make them feel better themselves, versus we're mandating this as a treatment with the goal of preventing another treatment.
Well, great. Look, either way, you guys want to ban this option out, right? I mean, there are several different governments that want to ban.
Hold on, Alex.
I do want to ban the second thing that I described there. I want to ban therapies which set out to try and prevent someone from being LGBT in some form, or asexual, or autistic even. It's the difference between setting out to change someone, however you see it. Like, I get that you say, oh, they're not trying to change your gender identity, whatever. What the issue here is setting out with the goal of changing them versus setting out with the goal of exploring. And the therapy where you set out with the goal of, let's help the patient and let them lead, and I mean, that's what affirmation therapy is, and this is already part of, mental health care for loads of different groups of people.
Well, and what you're doing here too is you're equivocating CBT and conversion therapy, and you're trying to say, well, but you're trying to get us to ban this thing, but it helps people with body dysmorphia. Like, we're not trying to ban CBT.
Yeah, not for body dysmorphia. No, for sure.
Because those are totally different. Okay. These are totally different conditions.
And in fact, don't want to ban
we're looking at.
If you go to the doctor and tell them you have these issues, you tell them you think you have gender dysphoria, they're not going under the current standards of care. CBT isn't even mentioned for gender dysphoria, whereas
Alex, because gender dysphoria isn't a mental illness. It's a symptom of a variation of normal.
Yeah,
it is not. It's not a mental illness, and I have. It's out of date. And here's the thing. So there's distinct differences between
I can
something
accept
like
that transgender is not a mental illness, but this is. Listen, I suffer with this shit. Okay, this is definitely a mental illness. I wanted to fucking kill myself.
Alex,
okay?
are you gonna let me explain to you my argument, or are you? I think you just want to talk and you just want to give your points. But I want to tell you why. Alex, so you call into a show, and I'm an actual doctor with a degree. And like, I'm here ready to have a conversation with you about what the guidelines are and why our thought process is this way. And you've just been trying to talk over me this whole time and explain why the medical consensus is wrong. Do you want to listen? How about you listen to the argument I'm going to bring, and then we can talk about it instead of just like trying to run over what I'm saying with trying to claim something else.
I do want to take another angle. I don't want to cut you off, Ben, obviously. If you've got a thing that you want to finish an argument, but I do want to talk about, like, you know, obviously I understand your suffering, Alex, and I kind of want to talk about that angle a little bit. And you mentioned this autogynephilia thing at the start. Ben, do you want to finish
your... anymore. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's okay. I just wanted to talk about that and just present, like, totally away from all these other things we've been talking about. Just another thing on that. But Ben, do you want to finish your...
Yeah, I'll just quickly mention kind of the background of why we're leaning away from calling gender dysphoria a mental illness. Because number one, like if we take something like body dysmorphia versus gender dysphoria, gender dysphoria is a symptom that many trans people deal with, but not all do. It is not an inherent part of being trans. And you can benefit. We could see improvement in quality of life for people who transition, who are trans, even if they don't have dysphoria. So the fact that the distress, because when we grade something like and define a psychological disorder, it's based on distress and your inability to function in certain aspects of society. Like, is there distress and is there impairment? Those are the two things that we think about.
Can I clarify something for you really quickly?
No, you're going to listen to my argument, okay? Because I'm not done yet. So it's about distress and impairment. And since gender dysphoria is a symptom, and it's not inherent to the experience, not every trans person has that distress or impairment. So the classification as a whole cannot be referred to under this criterion of gender dysphoria. But even looking at that, the source of the distress, if there is any distress, is different. So with body dysmorphia, it is in the brain, and when you change other factors in society or with your body, the distress remains until you can correct the impaired perception of yourself. But with gender dysphoria, the source of distress is external to the person. So if you change the external factors, you alleviate the dysphoria. So that's different. It's the origin of the distress is not in the brain.
Surgery, then?
Katie, do you want to jump in?
Wait. Okay, listen. There has definitely been a case of somebody who had their nose completely they had a really bad body dysmorphia about their nose. They just broke their nose, got surgery, and the guy was completely fine afterwards. So it's not. This does work. That's
not body dysmorphia. That's somebody having a cosmetic injury when they broke their nose and they had it appearing more normal. That's not body dysmorphia. I don't think you understand the definition of body dysmorphia is an impaired perception of your body, where you perceive your body in ways that it is not.
Yeah, there is a difference between body dysmorphia and being horrified at something about your physical image. You know, there are some things where people change their image, get some kind of cosmetic surgery, and then they're happier because of it, because they were, in their eyes or society's eyes, ugly or something beforehand. And that itself isn't body dysmorphia. Body dysmorphia is like a condition separate from that. But I just kind of wanted to come back to the first thing, Alex. Just so I have talked to some other people who have said similar things to you, and I kind of going to avoid the term autogynephile. Not everyone watching might not know what that means, but the reason is because the person who came up with this term autogynephile proposed basically that all trans women are one of two groups: autogynephiles or homosexual transsexuals. And that theory itself is just kind of nonsense and has been discredited. But then some people use autogynephile to mean something else, which I'll explain in a second. But so what that has ended up meaning is there's kind of two different definitions. So, basically the second definition is a cis man who gets off to pretending to be a woman, or in some theories is in love with the idea of being a woman. But when the guy who came up with this theory, Ray Blanchard, described it, he said that autogynephiles benefit from medical transition. But when we're often talking about people, or when I've talked to people who have described themselves like you have, they seem to think they wouldn't benefit from medical transition and are therefore different. So I guess I'm just going to say, people who...
most autogynephiles don't identify as women. Well, people who identify as autogynephiles don't.
But I don't know if you're using the true Blanchardian HSTS versus AGP, and if you are, then AGP, according to him, still benefit from medical transition. And I'm trying to steelman your position and say, let's say there's this group of men who maybe even experience gender dysphoria, or they have something like it, or maybe they have mental illness. They have some condition where they think they're trans, or they suffer in a way that looks like suffering as a trans person to other people, and they themselves are not trans and wouldn't benefit from transition. Let's just say there's that group, and then there's obviously actual trans people who do benefit from transition, and you might be in this group A who suffers but isn't really trans and wouldn't benefit from transition. We'll call it group A. But if you were to think you were trans, or if someone else thought you were trans and they gave you transition as a treatment, then in theory, you would suffer from that and your life would become worse. And so we want to not do that. So obviously you're describing, I would say it sounds to me like you're describing yourself, or at least the existence hypothetically of people who are in group A, who we've got to make sure they don't transition because it ruined their life. Would you say that that's a fair summary of your position? Just because I've got some things to offer up.
I've listened to everything about I've listened to a bunch of these podcasts, and I've heard myself saying, wow, that's exactly what I did. I'm on 50 different issues. When your co-host, Arden, or what's it? Is it Aiden?
Yeah, Arden.
Whatever.
Arden,
yeah. Listen, when they said, I didn't want to be a trans woman, I wanted to be a woman, look, that's probably why we're two different people.
Where I'm going with this is, if we've got a group A and trans people,
what do you mean
some group A's might think they're trans people and be wrong about it, and some of them might be fully aware that they're group A. But also there might be some trans people who are trans but think they're group A. And it's worth considering the existence of all these options, because I have met some people who have described how they've experienced. I met this one dude, all on Twitter, of course. I met this one dude on Twitter, and he described his life to me, and he literally didn't want to be a woman ever. And then when he got horny, he thought about being a woman, and then he had a wank and it went away. And that just does not match up with anything that I've experienced talking to the majority of trans people. And that doesn't mean they're not 100% trans, but that was his full experience of it. But I have also met people who have described being trans entirely. They've described everything, I've always wanted to be a girl, and I've always suffered with this, and it's not really a sex thing for me, and I tried transitioning, but I'm not really trans because you can't really be a real woman, and therefore I'm cured now. And they read to me as a trans person who is either deeply in denial, or politically opposed to the idea of transition, or terrified or disgusted of it. And I think it's worth...
Listen.
Yeah.
There are people who don't want to transition for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah, it is fine.
Yeah,
but it's worth finding out what the reason is. Because if the reason is fear, or the reason is internalized transphobia, or the reason is the law, or their religion, then I kind of think all of those are reasons that we should get rid of. The only reason, if transition is going to make your life better, then I kind of want that for you. Not you, Alex, personally, but in general, person. What's the issue here, Alex?
Why are you laughing?
I mean, I'm not saying it's going to make your life better, Alex. I'm just saying someone in general.
This is the funniest shit.
I'm not trying to do anything to you, Alex. I'm trying to explain my position of why I think it's important that we don't try and conversion therapy people straight up, but also just point out that some people, I mean, like you've called up and said, you know, if you think you're trans, you might have some weird thing where autogynephilia or whatever. And I'm saying, I was just accepting your position, although I'm not convinced of it entirely. And just saying, okay, but also the reverse might be true, right? And you seem to be kind of horrified and offended and...
Look, I'm not talking about...
Like that.
I think I've been talking about a slightly different thing. I'm not talking about during transgender people specifically. I'm talking about treating gender dysphoria. And...
Yeah, but like... So I would say, let's say there's something like maybe OCD or something where you don't experience gender dysphoria, but you have some worry or you feel like you might want to transition, or we just propose a hypothetical mental illness where you're convinced you should transition or whatever. That isn't a trans person, and I can accept that. But if there's someone who is like, I'm suffering from gender dysphoria, then the reality is, I would say, well, we've only really got one treatment that works. That's transition, and it works pretty well. I mean, that's all I can really do to offer you. I mean, what else can I say? That's just the science, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and this seems like it seems like a weird position to take, Alex, because
therapies left and right.
Alex,
okay,
yeah,
Alex,
but not for rational reasons, Alex.
Alex, a lot of your concerns are not even like they're addressed within our point of view, because I even suggested earlier, like I mentioned, the guidelines include that people should be getting mental health counseling and therapy. Like, so if somebody has some of these reservations, or they have want to talk about like why they're feeling like they want to transition, and like some of the things that Katy just said too, of like if there's a reason why they don't want to and it's related to fear or whatever, like we're already accounting for a lot of that with the therapy in conjunction with transition. So like these things of like, well, but what if they have all these psychological things that we're not thinking about? Like the point is the guidelines factor those in, right? So it's kind of nonsense to say, well, but like why don't we just do this and like not this? Like we're already accounting for that.
Yeah, I would love to carry on this call, Alex. I feel like I could talk about this forever, but it's been half an hour now, and we've got a lot of other callers, and I really think I'm going to have to call it.
Do you think that children that do not have any type of gender dysphoria whatsoever, but identify as trans, do you think they should go through medical treatment?
That's a whole separate conversation. It depends. It depends a lot. It depends a lot on the case. It depends a lot. I need to know a lot more information.
Yeah, and I don't want to go off on that. I'm gonna call this call here. I think that we've had a good discussion, and I would like you to call back, Alex, because I feel like I could talk about this more. I know that I feel like you got a bit more frustrated than I have, but I guess my closing thought would be, if someone in general, not necessarily you, Alex, if someone in general is not trans and they find themselves kind of wanting to transition, and then they find a way of stopping that, then, I guess in theory that's good. That's a good thing. But also I will point out that a lot of trans people think they have cured transness, and a lot of gay people think they've cured gayness. And they can often keep on that line for some time, years, but you just cannot cure gender identity or sexuality. It does not go away forever. And that's just worth bearing in mind. But yeah, Ben, I don't know if you have a closing word, but I'm going to end the call and then move on. Just because
my thoughts are, my final thoughts, it bugs me when people that don't work in this field try to say what they think is the best way to go about practicing medicine is. Like, okay, yeah, but you clearly don't know how this whole process works and how we make the decisions we do. So it's like, I understand that like you'd want to understand and you'd want to weigh in on this, but like you really need to listen more to people that do work in this field and who do have this knowledge, because if you make your assumptions and try to make decisions based on something you know nothing about, your opinion is kind of meaningless. So that's kind of a pet peeve of mine. And just like for anybody that calls in, like, I'm happy to discuss with you, but please, like, it will go better if you frame it as a question of like, how does this work in the medical field? Like, what can we do about this versus this is how medicine is, and I know how it is, and I'm not going to listen to doctors about what their actual job is and what they do every day.
You're unfortunate that doctor is like someone who's done a PhD in philosophy or sociology rather than like engineer. For some reason, if you go to the pub and you say, I'm a philosophy PhD or whatever, every single person in the room thinks they're better at philosophy than you, and they give their stupid, illogical, ignorant opinions. If you say, I'm an electronic engineer, everyone's like, oh, well, you know more about it than me then. I'm not even going to try and talk about this. And unfortunately, doctor is closer to philosopher. So everyone thinks they know better than the doctors. Anyway, let's move on. Let's take a slightly lighter and happier one, and then we might have another spicy caller after that. So we're going to talk to Jay in North Carolina, who wants to talk about supporting a friend. Jay.
Oh, hello.
Are you there?
Can y'all hear me?
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
How can we help you?
Oh, right on. Cool. Sorry, I never called in one of these shows before. Yeah, so I got a friend who has been sort of privately expressing with me that what they got going on just it doesn't really reflect who they are. And you know, we're a little bit we're in our late 30s here, and they've been sort of wringing their hands about what it would be like for them to transition at our age. And I just want to, like, you know, like, I guess at the risk of sounding like I'm asking the question, how do I be a good friend?
Yeah.
I'd like to sort of get y'all's thoughts about what you would like to see from cisgender friends to their friends who are thinking about transitioning, and perhaps if there are any resources that you could point my way.
Yeah, sure. I guess the first question, I know it's not really what you're asking, but you know, if you're saying, how do I be a good friend? Well, like calling in a trans call-in show as a cis person and asking, like, that's good friend material. Like that's quite kind. When I found out that my brothers and some of my friends had like gone away and read up on trans issues in their own time, I was like, wow, that's amazing. Like I feel really honored and loved that they've even bothered to do anything at all. So that's a nice thing. I guess in terms of supporting them, like it can be a stressful and awkward and scary time when you first like, because coming out isn't really like a binary. It's not like you're not out and then you are out. It look, for a lot of people, and it was for me, is a very slow process of exploring and telling them, like, whatever happens here, whatever the result is, I'm going to support you and be your friend. Let's explore on the way. And you know, if you want to try out a new name or something, then I'm cool with that. And if you want to try wearing different clothes, like, I'm cool with that. And if you want to like go shopping, or you want to, I don't know which, you know, what kind of trans person your friend is, but if you want to do a thing, then I'm cool with that. And that gives them a lot of room to explore and be themselves. And it's very easy for you because, like, I mean, really, you're just like, oh yeah, if you want to wear different clothes, that's fine for me. And they just turn up and you just carry on being a friend. And then, you know, that's kind of all. I guess the other thing, like, that's one class of support, I would say, with like being a general just friend and letting them be open and that kind of stuff. And the other kind of thing is just being a little bit aware of kind of the horror of the anti-trans movement at the moment. You don't need to go and start fighting on the front lines or anything, but being aware that it's scary and not kind of dismissing it. Like, I find it, lots of my friends are, all my friends are amazing people, but sometimes when I talk to people and I say, you know, the UK government is considering banning me from public spaces, not me personally, but trans people, lots of the time they're like, oh my God, that's horrific. How can I help? Like, whatever. And that's great. Even if I just kind of want to rant to them. But sometimes some people are like, oh, I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure it'll be fine. And like, that's very frustrating. So just being aware of the stress of it and just being like, okay, I'm really sorry to hear that. Like, you know, if I can help, let me know. That's very supportive too. And I think they're kind of the main two things. I don't know what you think, Ben. What did you want when you were coming out?
Yeah, I mean, definitely it's always pretty safe to ask your friends, how can I support you? Because then that puts the ball in their court, and then they can feel safe to say, hey, I need your help with this thing. Like, can you use this name around this group of people? And things like that. Like, normally people can tell you what they need help with. I know some things for me on the trans guy side of thing. Sometimes, like with the whole bathroom thing, it's very anxiety inducing to go into a bathroom, like a men's bathroom, because the culture is different, and like I get paranoid that because my feet are pointing in the wrong direction because I need to sit to pee, and so and then trying to basically pretend like I'm not peeing so that people don't think I'm trans, like try not to be clocked in the bathroom.
Sure.
So sometimes if I'm in a group of guys, I'll ask one of them like, hey, can you go see if anyone's in the bathroom right now before I go in? Or like, can you go with me? Or can you turn on the hand dryer when I go in? Like, can you make like some things like that are kind of silly, but it's helpful
really
because like I know that, yeah, it's like, so some people have their own methods of how they're going to handle certain situations. But if you just make yourself available as an ally and you say, like, how can I help you in this area? Like, I'm sure they'd be happy to tell you specifically what they need. But also, I mean, a good way to be an ally for them as well, and this is when I tell a lot of people, and you're doing a great thing by calling us and asking us questions. But like getting consent to ask them particular questions, like if you have a question about like their body or their identity or something,
if you want to
like,
call about their genitals, just call into the show instead.
Yeah, just call into the show. But like, yeah, because like it's weird to think that it's weird to think that you're obligated to answer questions, and not everybody wants to be a source of information for people. So even if this show's a great place, but if there's something you really need to ask that person, like just get consent first. Like ask them if it's okay to ask them about trans things, and like know that they can revoke their consent at any time and be respectful of that.
For sure.
And so that's a huge one,
like
is consent.
All of this, like I feel like it's good advice. But also don't over worry about it. Like you might think, oh, I need to make sure this, and I've got to make sure I don't cross this line, and it can make you feel a bit like held back and like you're treading on eggshells. Like you don't need to do that. You might make some mistakes. You might say something dumb. That's just the reality of it. And if it's clear you're a good supportive friend, then in the end it'll work out, and that it'll be fine. And you're probably going to say something stupid, and you'll just have to cringe through it with them. Like it's just going to happen. And the love and support is the main thing I think that you need. That's it.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
No, you go for it. Go for it.
Okay. So no, I was, it's kind of it's a weird place because this is a friend who's sort of like tickling the edges of it and being like, what does this mean? And like I think that like my body is this right now, like ain't really me. Just how they put it, and so like I guess the weird position that I feel myself in is that like I don't want to like overstate anything and like draw any conclusions that they haven't like proffered to me first. So yeah, I mean, I guess. Dang, I don't really know where I was going with that.
Yeah, I guess.
While this person is just sort of like exploring this for themselves, like, I mean, of course, like I want to be there, and if they want to go out and have me help them with the fit, like I'm more than happy to do that. And being in small town North Carolina, it's like it is certainly a scary climate over here. Yeah, but I suppose that's kind of long and short of it. Y'all have been extremely helpful. I really appreciate you.
Good. I guess on the conclusions thing, maybe just to guess kind of where you might be worrying about things. As a trans person, when I came out to myself, it took a long time, and I was really worried about it. And it's also kind of a running joke. Like, I almost felt like what I wanted was me from the future to come back in time and just tell me, so I didn't have to worry about it anymore. Just be like, you are trans or you aren't trans, or I just wanted like some kind of objective test, or I just wanted to like, be guaranteed. And
ain't that the goddamn truth?
Yeah, and like, I'm sure lots of people want that about lots of things in their life, and the reality is that there isn't one, and you're never going to know for 100%. And they might ask you and be like, oh, do you think I'm trans, or just and it's very difficult because people have said that to me before, and they'll list off all these things, and I'm like, fucking hell, mate, like, it's so obvious. 2 years time, you're going to come back and be like, thank you so much, you helped me trans. But the reality is, if I just was like, yes, you're definitely trans, well, I mean, it could be wrong, even if it's just like 1% of the time, but it's not actually. What they need to do is just go through themselves, and all you can really do is be like, there's nothing you've done which screams you're definitely not trans. You're not delusional, you don't seem confused about who you are or anything. But other than that, like, you're just gonna have to explore it on your own, mate. I think that's just what you're gonna have to say to them.
And I think that one of the things that's difficult for them is that they're not the first trans person I've met, but they are the first possibly trans person that they've met.
Right. Tell them to get some trans friends.
That they're pretty. Pardon?
Tell them to get some trans friends. That'll help. Just to talk to some trans people. That's a big...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I think that, and part of the problem for them is that, like, so many of the spots on the internet, I think they found them to be like pretty toxic.
Yeah.
And pretty
the internet's
triggering
bullshit.
in different directions. Yeah.
But there are nice trans people out there. Sometimes you just got to try for. Like,
of course.
Do you remember the messaging app Kik, like KIK? The first trans people I met were on that, and I talked to trans people on that. I mean, my goodness, there were some fucking ridiculous people on there, and I was like, maybe I just don't like trans people. And then I found a group that I did like, and I was like, oh no, it's just Kik is full of weirdos. That is all. But Twitter's full of weirdos, so I can't really talk.
I avoid Twitter like there was a viper in my boot. Tell you what. But hey,
smart. That's the most American saying.
I gotta. But I tell you, I gotta run. But y'all have given me so much to chew on, and it's really helped me collect my thoughts on it a bit. And I really appreciate y'all taking the time to talk to me.
Oh, well, thanks for calling, and thanks for supporting your trans friend.
Yeah, thank you for being a good friend, and thank you for listening.
Yeah.
That's my partner. I got them, yeah.
And watch out for them vipers in your boots. Sorry,
Yeehaw.
that was really racist.
I tell you what. Fucking sick of them. Had enough. Goddamn copperheads. All right.
Bye, Jay.
That's enough folksiness for me. I'm gonna let y'all go. Goodbye.
That was a good call, and I love it when Americans say really American things.
I live for your American accents, like, especially. I mean, you didn't say yeehaw today, but I really, what? Like, maybe this should be a punishment in the future. Is just like having Katy say yeehaw a bunch of times in a bunch of different ways, and then remixing it into like a song. I'll make this happen.
So I think we've got at least one more spicy caller here. So let's do that. We're going to talk to Jared in Atlanta, who would like to list their objection to non-binary identities. Jared,
am I on with the host?
You are.
You are.
Okay. Yeah. So can I just iterate my position on trans issues, and then you can explain what's philosophically or morally wrong with it, and then we can move on from there?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So I believe that the idea that there's a gender binary exists, and you can see that as the historic development of human nature through evolutionary biology. However, there are some people that are exceptions to the rule who voluntarily identify with the opposite gender in the gender binary. I believe transgender identities are valid to the extent that I believe people should have the free choice to identify with whatever identity they want. However, the fact that you in a society have the right to identify with existing identities does not give you the right to make up your own identities. And there is clearly a gender binary in Western society. Therefore, I believe that you should have the voluntary choice to identify with either gender that you like, and transgender people or people who identify with the gender that they were not assigned at birth. But I do not believe it's valid to make up your own gender or to identify outside of the gender binary. You have every right, philosophically speaking, to identify with whatever identity you like.
Yeah.
You don't have the right to make up your gender identity. And the reason why is because language is something that society constructs, and society has the right to determine which identities are valid. And if society determines there's a gender binary, that's valid. However, this doesn't mean in society you can't identify with whatever identity that society has prescribed for you. So non-binary identity is just philosophically invalid.
So just to address one thing you said earlier, which I think ties into your main argument there, you said in Western society, like you said Western society at one point, which is interesting because it kind of implies that other societies maybe didn't have a gender binary. Do you agree with that?
I would have to depend on I would imagine pretty much every society that has the Abrahamic religions has the gender binary, and I can't.
Except the Abrahamic religions don't have the gender binary necessarily.
Well, Judaism doesn't necessarily. But anyway, before we go off into a rant about religion,
well,
let's. I just want to see whether you think there's at least
of the Abrahamic religions, be that Judaism,
this is why I didn't want to go off into that.
Was you're talking about
okay, but I want to go back to something that you're saying.
Before we were counting, I want to do my argument first.
Yeah, let Katy make her argument, and then I want to make my argument.
I want to say is, it sounds to me like you accept there is probably at least one society at one point that didn't have a gender binary, and that is just trivially true.
But I can't say, and we don't live in that society.
Well, okay, but let's just say there was at least one point where there was a society.
Clearly not America, Europe, Israel, Japan, or whatever.
Yeah, I don't care. But let's just say it doesn't even have to be a country that exists today. If at one point there was a society where there wasn't a gender binary, then basically what we've got is two different, at least, societies. We've got one where there's only two genders and one where there's more than two genders. So if what we're saying is, if you were born into the society which has, say, 7 genders rather than the one that has 2, you were saying that that would be okay for you to pick one of the, or the third gender, just based on what time and place you were born. But if you were born in this society, that's not okay. Do you accept that that's like the conclusion of your premises?
Yes. If
okay, so who says? Yeah, so who says? So my two little points from that. Okay. So who says which of those societies is right? And obviously, one of them could change into the other one eventually. So who causes the change?
I'm not making an argument for right or wrong. I'm not making a prescriptive argument. I'm making a descriptive argument.
Yeah, so here's and Katy's going in the direction that I want to go, and the fact that like this is largely arbitrary. You're essentially saying that whatever the majority of the society agrees to is the mandate for what your identity is, which is kind of weird. So like, am I limited to be a person based on what society tells me I can be?
No.
Am I limited to what society tells me I can be?
You're limited to whatever identities exist in culture, yes. Because you don't have a monopoly over
culture. But like, we exist in multiple cultures at once, right? Because I exist in the English-speaking world, and so that means that Australians, Americans, and British people, and Canadians, and whoever else, we have some kind of shared culture. But I also have like British culture, which is different to American culture, and I also have like Bristolian metalhead culture, and like we say things to each other that wouldn't even make sense to you guys. In my little, niche in the world, which is for most of my time when I'm not on the internet, is my entire world. I only travel sometimes. They accept non-binary, like at least in my society, the social networks that I travel in. So I accept that, in some places in the world, they absolutely don't accept it or accept any trans people. Like in Saudi Arabia, they don't accept any trans people. But in Bristol, they do. So...
So if there's a society which acknowledges an identity, you have every right to associate with that identity. And can I just give another example?
Well, I have a problem. I have a problem with society.
Yeah.
Okay, but can I just give an example that will illustrate my point?
No, because we want to have this discussion with you. We want to talk with you about this.
Okay.
I have an issue with the fact that you're essentially saying that your identity is limited to what society tells you it can be. Like, even in these societies that don't have a concept of non-binary in their culture, like as a... Jared, are you going to... I'm really angry with people not listening to me today. Are you going to listen?
You said I don't...
Jared, are you going to listen to me?
Okay, yes, I will listen, but I don't want you to put words in my mouth.
I'm going to give you my argument. Like, I'm incredibly angry at people because there have been multiple callers today that will, for some reason, listen to Katy, but will not listen to me. And I'm incredibly pissed off about it. So if you're not going to listen to me, I'm going to leave this conversation.
Just make your point.
Okay,
and then...
cool. All right. So, in a society that does not necessarily have an established concept of a gender outside of male or female, there are still people that in their brain, they tell themselves, I don't fit either of these labels. I don't like using them. I don't like the role that society has given me. This is who I am. This is how I want to act. Here's how I want to live. Why does society get to step in and say, you don't get to be that? You have to conform with our norms. Why can't that person be themselves? What's the actual issue with that?
Whoops.
Oh, Katy, you're muted. I can't hear you, Katy. No, I can't hear Katy.
I was muted. Jared, you're back. Okay. Sorry.
Okay. So I don't know if there are actually people who have non-binary gender dysphoria. I'd have to read more into the literature than that.
Why are you the arbiter? Why are you the arbiter of what somebody is? Like, why? Okay. Like, I understand that you don't understand what it's like to be non-binary because it's not you. But if I say, my name is Ben, this is who I am, I like the color pink, I like to play soccer, like, if I said those things, are you going to tell me that I'm wrong in any of that? Like, what business do you have telling somebody else that their identity is false?
I'm not saying that they don't... First of all, I don't know if there's non-binary gender dysphoria or not. I'd have to read more into that. But second of all, just because you identify as something does not make you that thing. For example, I'm an American.
So your entire claim, though, hold on, Jared. Your entire claim, though, was that their identity is based on what society defined for people. And my argument is that somebody can exist outside of those bounds of what society defines for them. And so you need to back up the claim that society has that right to mandate who somebody is and control their identity.
That claim. You have to listen to my example. If you can listen to my example...
Okay, Jared, you do an example and then I'll do an example, and let's see whose example is the best.
So, you have every right to identify with whatever nationality you like. I'm an American. I have every right to become a Italian by nationality. I have every right to become a Jew by nationality. If I move to Israel, I have every right to become an Englishman. I have every right to become a Japanese person. However, I do not have the right to create my own nationality called Jared Land, where I get to identify as a Jared Land citizen. So,
if you had enough guns, you could, though.
Yeah, you could. You could actually do that.
People have done it before, actually. I mean, the USA is literally that, because you really should be part of Britain. And we were like, you don't have the right to make your own country. And you guys were like, fuck society, we're going to do a civil war. And then
you could go on a boat into international waters and just park on a boat for eternity and then not have to deal with those societies.
People do change society. That's kind of the flaw in this argument.
Yes, but that requires that requires cultural and societal consensus.
It does, and that's what we're trying to do. I mean, that's what we're trying to do with this show. We're trying to make the argument that non-binary people should be respected by everyone, and we're doing it by saying, well, sometimes society is wrong about stuff. Let me give you my example. So my example is, if, like, depending on what we say society is, I'd say most people in society, most people in the world, most people in English society, probably most people in Bristol, don't think that death metal is real music. They don't even think it counts as music. They'll say, this isn't music, I can't even hear what he's saying. And I assure you that is what people say, because they have said it to me in my entire fucking life. And I don't actually care. I don't care if anyone in the world... I wouldn't care if I was the only person on earth who liked death metal, because I am a metalhead, and that is like my primary identity, and that's how I identify. Other people are just wrong. Society is just wrong. Maybe in the future we'll have a society where the majority of people like metal and people think it's the only music. I don't think that's ever going to happen. I've just accepted the fact that metal is always going to be a minority societal position. We're always going to be on the outskirts of what's acceptable to even call music. I just don't give a fuck. Like, I don't even need to change society. As long as they aren't trying to ban me from listening to the music, or ban me from wearing what I want, or ban me from just existing and living a normal life, I don't give a fucking shit. And it's the same with non-binary people. Like, I don't actually care if someone's non-binary or not. I'm going to be polite to them. If they're my friend, then I will care about their journey because they're my friend. But I just don't give a fuck. But what I do care about is when society decides that they can't do something. They can't live their life as a normal person. They can't wear what they want, and they can't listen to what music they want. And that's when I have an issue. So, like, in that case, we need to change society. Society is sometimes garbage. Like, society used to think slavery was okay. I'm glad we changed society. Society was wrong. So, I don't know, I'm not very convinced by this argument.
So, if your claim is that people have every right to wear or use or listen to whatever music
and
they want,
identify as non-binary.
Yeah, you have the right to identify. That doesn't mean I have to respect your identity or acknowledge that that's valid.
Well, you don't have to respect. I don't have to respect your identity, Jared. But if I didn't, I'd be a prick.
Theoretically, if we lived in a culture which decided sometime in the future that there is an evolutionary construct of people that do have non-binary gender dysphoria, I would be open to accepting non-binary identities after society agrees that that's a valid position.
Why? Why wait then?
So you're just being an asshole.
Yeah, I mean...
So you're just intentionally being an asshole.
I mean...
No,
just say we did the science, and we did a laboratory, and then tomorrow we're like, oh, look, non-binary people are all fake. And then someone come up to me and they were like, Katy, I'm non-binary. Can you call me they, them? I'd be like, yeah. Okay. Who cares? I mean, people talk to God all the time, and I like just let them do it. Like, whatever. I don't know. I don't get the point.
You're using you're using an obnoxious level of pedantry to justify being an asshole to people, which I really dislike people in general. And you're allowed to do it. You're allowed to have these these long-winded philosophical arguments for why you want to be rude to somebody. You're allowed to do that. But people have every right to not like it when you do that, and to say, I don't want to be around this person because they came up with this whole ridiculous argument to explain why they don't want to call me by the name I want to be called by. Like, okay, society has agreed. Society has all agreed that legally my name is I have a certain name which I've legally changed through the whole process. Society, all my IDs are changed. All that is fine. But I tell people that I want them to call me Ben. That's not something that society has agreed upon for me. That's something that I decided for myself. Like, I want to be called Ben. I introduce myself as Ben to other people. So should I not be allowed to use my nickname because society has agreed that the legal process has my name being something else? You could go down your same pathway for your philosophical argument to deny nicknames. You could deny a lot of things, but like Katy is saying, like, what is the point? What is the point in making this long-winded argument just to deny somebody's, just to deny respecting somebody?
So,
what do you get out of it?
Okay, your name is an individual identity that anyone can voluntarily choose because your name doesn't, because you only have your name. No one else has your name. Your name is just your name. Whereas
But some societies don't let you pick your name.
Masses of people, whereas gender is clearly something masses of people identify as. Masses of people clearly identify as male and female, or men and women, whereas your name, Ben, whatever your last name or middle name, or my name is Jared, and I'm not going to give my last name, but Jared, my last name, is my name, and that's just my name. But that doesn't mean that masses of people have to identify with that name, whereas gender is something that masses of people identify with.
But you don't.
You don't have to identify with anything, Jared. The thing is, you have a name, and if society was like, no, Jared is an illegal name, you'd be like, well, fuck you, my name's Jared. It's just a thing we made up, isn't it? Like, and this is a real thing. Like, I know someone from Romania who was born during Soviet rule, and the name that their parents wanted to give them was illegal. And so the parents called them that anyway, and they've grown up called that anyway, but all of the documents say a different name, and they can't change it. I mean, maybe they can change it now, but at the time they couldn't change it. And the thing is, that was their name, regardless of what the society said or the piece of paper said. It's just stupid. Like, I don't see what the point is. And you say, like, identifying with a name. I mean, I guess you could say I identify with the name Katy, but, like, what does that really mean? My name just is Katy. I just am a woman, and I just am a metalhead. And, like, I don't know. If you say, no, you're not, I don't believe you. I'm just like, well, you're either stupid or you're a dickhead. I mean, they're the options, aren't they?
Yeah, but the thing is, there's no reason, there's no social utility in rejecting a name.
There's no social reason to reject non-binary people. I mean, what do you get out of it?
The social reason is because there is an evolutionary basis to a gender binary historically, at least when it comes to...
But what do you gain out of it? Evolutionary, mate. Like, I mean, some people want to argue that there's an evolutionary benefit to rape, and that's why it exists. Who gives a fuck? It's disgusting and immoral, so that's why it's illegal. It doesn't matter whether evolution, like,
evolution isn't this thing that, like, makes perfect anything. Evolution is just describing a process that happens, and it's not like evolution is not the final arbiter of things. Like, evolution often selects for things that are absolute garbage. So, like, just saying, well, evolution therefore, like, gender's binary, like, that's a stupid argument.
And you're not gaining anything from it. What do you gain? Like, you haven't said what you gain. What's the social utility?
The gaining is masses of people in society, in part due to evolutionary reasons, in part due to cultural reasons, identify as male or female, and on that binary, people don't get to say that they just get to walk out of society's rules, right?
Why not? Who cares? Why are the rules there? Why do we? What do the rules gain us?
In the same way, if
why
I
do you not get to
a state capital, I don't have the right to speak Klingon because we speak English here.
But the reason there's a social utility for that. You have a right to do it, but if you do it, no one's going to understand you. So I'd be like, mate, if I kind of want to have this conversation, you're going to have to talk in a language I understand, or find me a translator. Like, there's a social utility. When you say I'm not going to accept non-binary people, like, why? It seems to me like the benefit is, well, I don't like it, so it makes you feel better. I mean, I can't think of another reason. It literally doesn't affect you. I get that there are some things that society does because it's beneficial, like making rape illegal because it's fucking disgusting and harms people and ruins their lives. But when we're making non-binary illegal what? Like, what are we doing here? Who's benefiting?
We have to make non-binary illegal. It just means that society doesn't necessarily have an obligation to acknowledge. You're conflating making something, using force to prevent someone from doing it, and just not accepting their self-identity as valid.
But you don't have to accept anything, Jared. You don't have to accept that I'm called Katy, or that I'm British, or that I like heavy metal. But then if you start telling... Yeah, but it's a fact of reality. Some people are non-binary. I mean...
It's only a fact if non-binary, if you presume non-binary is a legitimate category to begin with.
Well, I don't think it's legitimate to not be a metalhead. I think there's only one genre of music, and it's metal, and everything else is just noise, and you either like music or you don't.
well, clearly, we as a society have defined music in such a way.
So it's just an appeal to popularity, isn't it?
No, it's an appeal to societal constructs.
Which we already acknowledged that we can change over time, and that's what we're trying to do.
We can change.
If we normalize non-binary people.
In 100 years, as I said, if scientists find that there are people that genuinely have,
but you just said it was a social thing. Why are we bringing scientists? Why are we bringing scientists into this now? If we're talking about society,
you said if you lived in a society with free genders, you would accept it. So to me, it just sounds like you just, Jared. Earlier, you said if you lived in a society with free genders, you'd accept it. Like it, you're just saying, oh well, I'm just going to do what everyone else does, like because that's what society said. I mean, it does kind of just sound like an excuse for I don't want to respect non-binary people, but also I don't want to feel bad about it. But like you're just saying I'm just going to do what everyone else does, and I'm saying, well, I'm going to do what's right because I'm actually going to base my views on logical reasoning rather than what society says. Society often is wrong. If you were alive when slavery was normalized and everyone supported it, like. Do you like if
Slavery
you went back to that time?
Slavery was an example of a social construct that had clear demonstrable harms and human rights abuses.
Yeah. So it was bad to accept slavery.
Not calling someone
even though there was some benefits to some people to support it. On the whole, it was fucking horrible, and also it was so bad on an individual case. It doesn't matter what benefit we got from it because it was immoral. So now there are some things that are really obvious like that, though it wasn't obvious to everyone because lots of people just said, well, it's acceptable, so I'm just going to carry on doing it, just following orders. But
requires
there is no benefit. There is no benefit to not respecting non-binary people, and there is a slight benefit to respecting them, which is that non-binary person themselves and all the non-binary people watching just aren't disrespected. I mean, respect isn't much. It's not a big thing, is it? Like, if you disrespect me, it's not going to ruin my whole life, but I'm just going to be like, well, who's this prick? And that's it. That's the only thing here. It's like respect versus nothing. So you might as well do it.
I agree with you. You should respect people. You don't have to acknowledge someone. Someone's self-identity as true with that. And you can.
So here's the thing,
anything, Jared. I'm not making you.
So here's the situation we're talking about here, right? So like, let's say you meet a person at the bar or whatever, somebody's there, and you ask them for their name, and they tell you their name, and they say, hey, I would like for you to use they, them pronouns, because if you call me he, him, or she, her, I feel really depressed and sad, and I want to go cry. And then you're basically saying, well, society doesn't acknowledge that you exist, so I'm not gonna call you they, them. I'm gonna keep calling you he, him, or she, her, and you can go cry. That's fine. You can go cry because I just don't believe that you can go against society. And you have every right. You have every right to say that to them. But I think
stupid.
Most people would say that making the person cry because you called them something that makes them depressed was kind of a mean thing to do, right?
Even if it was totally neutral, even if someone was like, oh, we did some science, we're like, disrespecting non-binary people doesn't actually affect them because they're not real people and they're fish and they don't have emotions or whatever. Even if that was true, if someone said to me, the reason I'm not doing this is because society says so, that just screams idiot to me. Like, what? So are you saying that if society just suddenly said it was okay to kick babies, you'd just be like, wow, I might as well be a baby kicker now? Like, it's such a bad reason to do anything. Like, it's a flaw of critical thinking. Like, you cannot say the reason I'm doing something is because society says it's okay. Like, you're really, Jared? Is that really your position? Come on.
Do you believe all individual self-identities are valid?
I mean, what does valid mean?
If
someone said, can you please call me Hitler, I'd be like, no, mate.
Yeah, if I said I was a citizen of Jared Land, would you say that's valid?
If you want, like, why does that affect me? I'd be like, okay.
Would you say it's valid if I said I was a citizen of Jared Land?
A citizen? What does it? I mean, a citizen is legally a citizen. I'd be like, I don't. I don't think you are, because I don't think that's a legal entity. But
Exactly,
if that's how you view yourself,
correct.
if
You
you're
acknowledge
fighting
that not
towards
everybody's identity.
freeing Jaredtopia from the evil clutches of the US empire, then like, yeah, I support the Jaredinese independence movement. Good luck, Jareds. I hope that you get your own country. Like, I support generally independence movements. If Scottish people want to be Scotland, then they can do that. They don't have to be UK. Catalonians, maybe. That's cool. They're not countries yet, but maybe they will be in the future. If that's how they identify.
Only become countries with popular consent.
Well, it have to be
the
popular,
majority of Scottish people. Yeah, if the majority of
it won't be
Scottish people
popular.
want to be independent.
Yeah, but it wasn't popular in England when the US became an independent. Anyway, we're going around in circles. Yeah. End of the show. Jared, this was a good conversation, but really I think you need to go away and think about, I'm doing this because society says it's okay, and just apply that to various things which have been okay in society in the past, and see if that is a good way to run your life and a good way to do morals. Because I assure you, it is not. It's a very bad way to live your life. We have loads more callers on the line, but we kind of hit the end of the show, Ben. What do you want to do? Do you want to tell everyone to call back, or do you want to... I don't know if I can be bothered to squeeze one more in. What do you think?
Yeah,
Is there one that you
I think
really
we'll
want
probably...
to do?
I think we'll probably have to take some of these next time.
Very
but
sorry to
I guess
everyone who's
one
waited on the
recommendation
line.
for some people on the line, like I just want to be clear, and like I don't want to be like coming across as an asshole, but like I love the medical questions, but like I want to specify for people that are calling in, like with your own personal medical questions, like I'm okay answering general science questions and general medical questions, but if you're calling about very specific, like should I specifically do this particular medical thing, I'm not going to give you an answer on that. So I'm just going to let you know that right away. Like I can't be that person on air, but you can ask about general principles, general guidelines, and that's kind of more of the medical call I can take.
Def. And I think, yeah, that's is a good thing to consider, that obviously we're not actually
like I'm anyway. A doctor, I'm not your doctor. That's gonna be my
that's the concise little description. Yeah. So we are about to do the super chats, and if you sent in $5 or more, or if you're about to send in $5 or more, you still have time right to the end of the show. Sometimes get it right in, and we'll read it out, our best, and we will love every single person who does it, and I will double love anyone who does a hashtag Team Katy. But before we do that, I think that I'd also like to point out that there are loads of other shows on this channel, and they're all worse than this one, and you shouldn't watch any of them. But if you were wondering, the worst shows than this, there are a few more really utterly terrible. On the Sunday show this Sunday, just sounds so rubbish. That's got Eric and Matt on it. It's just going to be bullshit. Arden's producing. On Monday, we've got Skep Talk. You should just do not turn up on Monday. It's Forrest Valkai. What a loser. On Tuesday, probably the worst show of the week, we have Dying Out Loud with Dave Warnock and Shannon Q. Can you imagine listening to Shannon Q for a whole show? Fucking hell. Wednesday, we've got The Hang Up with, you guessed it, Matt, and he's supported by J Mike, who's just intolerable. And then next Thursday, it's not even going to be good because this show's back, but neither me or Ben are on. It's Arden and Luxander. So you should just, I don't know, block this channel, delete YouTube app from your phone, do not like this video, whatever you do, and certainly don't send in a super chat because that all sounds fucking bullshit. The line is rubbish. I hope Jimmy never sees this clipped out of context.
You don't have to support the line, but I do need you all to go tweet hashtag free Jaredtopia. I'm really concerned about the liberation of Jaredtopia.
Right, okay, I'm going to do it. Let's get this trending. Hashtag free.
Yes, we're gonna do it.
Wait. Before I dive in, is this an actual thing? Because this seems like one of those things you dive in and it's actually not a political... like, you'd be like, oh shit, it's a real thing, and they're all racist or something. Right.
Yeah, let's look it up first.
Okay. Jaredtopia Theme Park Tycoon 2 on YouTube. Someone is no, look, I think we're safe. Okay.
It's a roller coaster tycoon stream. Yeah. You know what? I'm okay supporting a roller coaster tycoon stream. Like, let's get them viral. Let's go.
I'll do some more research and tweet. Anyway, let's do some super chats. $5 or more, and we reread them out for you. Ben, would you like to go first or second?
All right. Yeah, I got it. £5 from John Harding. Let's get things started. Jimmy, have a nice day. # Team Katy. Well, Jimmy's not here to get things started, so he can go fuck himself. But the rest of us are here getting the party started. Thank you for your support, John.
$10 from Tiffany M. Happy Pride, all. And thanks for what you do. # Team Poppy. Yay. By the way, earlier, I don't know if you saw while Ben was doing some medical stuff, I looked really disgusted. It was partially because Ben, but actually Poppy sneezed on my arm like 3 times. And it wasn't just a little dainty cat sneeze, but like a globby snot sneeze. I hope she's okay. I'll check on her after this, but she globbed on me. It's disgusting. Next.
Glad to hear about it. Sounds like a great time. Yeah, if you are Team Poppy, you are Team Globsnot. So
I already did # Team Snot in the cat snot in the chat.
# Team Snot. Yeah, a vote for Katy is a vote for Team Snot. So if you are Team Snot today, you can be Team Snot. That's allowed. I don't know what my team is today. I don't know. Think of something fun for me.
Team Slime. Slime versus Snot. That's the 2 options you have in this show. That's why you got to watch the show.
$5 from I Got Cookies. Pat Robertson died during Pride Month. Karma, rainbow flag.
Yes.
Yep. I did hear that happened.
I should have laughed at that. Well, the reason I laughed there is because I was like, oh, let's do a poll. Let's do about Pat Robertson. But then we had already done a poll, so it was too late. But yes, I don't know. I don't know. I think it's fine to be happy that someone who was so horrible and harmed so many people's lives for so long, like ruined people's lives, has gone. Like the world's just a slightly better place. I'm sure some people will celebrate when I die. Like fuck them. I don't think we have to respect the dead. I mean, don't be horrible to people's widows or whatever. That's kind of disgusting. But Pat Robinson was a disgusting person. So get fucked.
£5 from Sean Isherwood. By the Borsuk-Ulam theorem, there always exist diametrically opposed points on Earth with the same temperature. That's interesting. Okay.
And that's a result of maths, not like physics. I mean, I guess that is maths. Well, that's really interesting, if it's true, I guess. Oh, okay. €5 from Yasmin Meadowflower. I finally have some positive news. I got my ID with an F marker this week. Happy Pride Month. Sunshine. Congratulations, Jasmine. That's amazing. That's really good to have. And it's such a relief. You can go to nightclubs without people giving you a funny look. So that's good. Well done.
What the fuck? Okay. Yeah, I saw you submit this one. £5 from Katy Montgomerie. Katy, what cards are you most excited about from Paldea Evolved # Team Poppy? I love the names changing here. It went to some dickhead and now it's back to Katy.
Disappointing.
You gotta leave it as some dickhead because that's her actual name. See, society doesn't acknowledge that your name is Katy Montgomerie. It's actually some dickhead, and I refuse to acknowledge that your name is Katy. It's actually some dickhead.
Well, society acknowledges that Pokemon is the best franchise of all time. So, yeah, I'm most excited about all the grass ones, Wo-Chien, Meowscarada, Fortress. It's going to be good. I'm excited. I'm sure everyone knows what I'm talking about next. $4.99 from 7 Lions. Happy Pride. # Team Katy. Thank you very much. That must be because of the Pokemon.
I'm going to start super chatting myself and asking medical questions so I can just give my medical rants. £5 from John Harding at Critical Cupcake. Yes, she can. # Team Poppy. I don't know what this was in a response to, but
this was because Cupcake had told Katy she can't vote for herself. Which, by the way, I forgot to do that vote. So there is a vote.
Oh, okay.
Yay! Thanks, Ben. I thought it isn't Yes She Can Hillary Clinton's campaign thing. I thought they were like suggesting running Poppy as the next Democrat.
Oh, do it. That'd be great.
$50. Thank you very much. That is super kind. My best friend is trans, and I was recently able to help improve their life by sharing knowledge and understanding that I gained from this show. Amazing. That's really good to hear. Thank you to everyone involved with this show. I love you all. Thank you very much, Noble Monster Comics. That is very kind, and I'm really happy for you and your trans friend.
$10 from Noble Monster Comics. Hashtag Team Katy forever. Team Ben is getting annihilated today. You all are Team Snot. Everybody is Team Snot today. Oh, you're muted.
That's because you called me Team Snot and it just kicked in like instant. I had to mute, get out of this horrible call. Team Snot says $4.99 from Louise Richardson. I transitioned in the 70s, but I was off HRT 20 plus years because I was told I would not develop more. Yet after a few years of HRT, I have ample breasts. Yeah, I know someone else who transitioned in the early 80s who was off HRT for like 20 years because the doctors told them they didn't need to be on it anymore. Like, absolutely insane. The total failing of care that trans people had for so long. I hope that it hasn't negatively affected your mental health or your health.
$4.99 from Claire. When my mom and I argued recently about trans issues and I told her major med organizations agree, she cited the Pope as a reliable source that disagreed. Hashtag Katy. And this is something that's, again, a huge pet peeve of mine because, you have on the one hand, you have major medical organizations. You have doctors that have been practicing in the field for decades. You have a shared medical consensus. And then on the other hand, you have pastors and other religious leaders that have literally zero qualifications in anything except for their own interpretation of their own book. And like, yeah, well, I'm going to listen to this person instead. Like, but they know literally nothing. Like, why did they get to be platformed as an equal authority and bear zero responsibility for anything that they say? Which it just blows my mind.
Yeah, it's totally ridiculous. I've always funny you were like, it's just these religious leaders, and in my mind I was like, oh, and J.K. Rowling, and you were like, who just have their own interpretation of their own book, and I was like, oh, also like J.K. Rowling. And then I remember that time when she said that she made an anonymous profile and went onto the Harry Potter forum and got kicked off for not knowing enough about Harry Potter. I was like, just like the flipping Pope with his Bible, didn't even know what's going on there either. Yeah, thanks, Claire. £5 from John Harding. Claire, your mum cited a man in a dress. Yeah.
True. That's great. $9.99 from Flash Prez Blue Wolf. Shout out to my trans NB furries. The fandom has its flaws, but I found it to be by and large supportive of all GIs. It warms my heart to see GIs gender identities represented through fursonas. Jimmy, go fuck yourself. Hashtag Team Josie's laugh. Josie is not even here today. How are we getting votes for Josie? I have no votes on the board. And we've got votes for people that aren't even here today. I know I saw some Team Bens in this. I saw some Team Bens in the side chat. I know they're coming, but y'all are Team Ben. Team Ben. This happens every week too. I love my Team Ben people in the audience. And this is, you know what? This is a trend I see with especially the trans mask community. Y'all are so slow to respond to things. I love you. I love my community. But like we're too busy, like, I don't know, having possum energy to like respond in a decent amount of time. I love you all, but we gotta be more punctual with our responses. That's my pep talk to everybody who's Team Ben in the side chat.
I liked it when you said GIs, and my first thought was G.I. Joe, and I was like, I wonder what that stands for, and I looked up galvanized iron. But did you think of gastroenterology? So. Yeah. Because I googled what does GI stand for, and it was like gastrointestinal. I was like, oh, Ben's gonna. Next. Oh wait. $9.99 from Claire. She once said she thought trans people were bad for women. I thought this is the same person who is pro-life and told me feminism has hurt women because it changed the economy so women have to work. But yeah, it is weird how the people who seem to most loudly say trans people existing is bad for women have been anti-feminism and anti-women for ages. I mean, what a strange set of circumstances. How could we have ever predicted that?
$4.99 from Clayton Smith. Hashtag Team Edward or hashtag Team Jacob. Hashtag Team Feline. So I'm not a Twilight fan. So I'm neither Team Edward or Team Jacob. I'm also not Team Feline because I know that's Team Katy. So I'm definitely, if I had to choose though between any Twilight reference and Katy, hands down, it has to go to Twilight because Katie's just terrible. So I'll pick both of them in favor of not being Team Katy.
Well, when you said Jared, I thought it said, no, when you said Jacob, I thought it said Jared. And I was like, well, I'm obviously Team Jared because I support a free Jaredtopia. So fuck Edwardtopia. Let's go to war with them as soon as Jaredtopia and Jacobsville is the capital of Jaredtopia, I think.
Can the punishment this week be that y'all have to make like a 30-second video advocating for the freedom of Jaredtopia?
Yes. I love it. That's a great punishment. Yes.
Okay. Prepare your speech, Ben.
Yeah. We'll make it fun.
Is this you or me?
I think it's you.
Okay. 555 from Horsey. The horse says, yeah, I don't know. Do you think transphobia and idiotic politics in general would be as bad if the internet did not exist? No Poppy cameo yet, so I'm going with hashtag Team Ben. Oh, Poppy was in the show earlier. She was sneezing on my arm. I don't know. I think that the internet has helped transphobes organize and sped up the trans panic to a more extreme degree. But I also think that the internet has allowed trans people to organize and become a thing, like a political movement at all. I think overall, the internet is probably net positive for trans people because it's allowed us to organize, and it also allows us to get information that otherwise was gatekept by transphobic dickheads. So I learned loads of stuff about trans people from the internet, and I wouldn't have without it. So
$5 from Melissa Nguyen. UNCRC Article 12. Children have the right to give their opinions freely on issues that affect them. Adults should listen and take children seriously. Yeah, that's pretty much the consensus. So
that's recognized in society. So
yep.
And what society says is what I believe. No exceptions.
Yep.
$4.99 from Louise Richardson. Societies that exist today without strict gender binaries. India. Oh yeah, India is such a. Why didn't I think of that off the top of my head? India, like recognized by the state, has more than two options. So, Thailand, Guam, other Polynesians, various Native Americans, and First Nations. Yeah, I mean exactly. So you're just saying if you were born in India, which has the biggest population of any nation in the world, then you would just accept non-binary people. Sounds very legit, mate. Great argument.
$9.99 from Stacy N. Angry Ben is pretty hot. Angel emote.
But no hashtag. Not hot enough for a hashtag.
Not hot enough for a hashtag, apparently. No, but I did get very, very grumpy during this episode, and I get people like Angry Ben, and I've seen that every time Angry Ben has come out. I feel like Angry Ben is not all that great. I'm not super proud of Angry Ben, but I'm glad that you all like Angry Ben, I guess. It makes me feel less bad.
$5 from Pandemonium. Fucking hell, my God, what is wrong with me? The M on the other line totally threw me off. Dr. Ben, I am listening to you.
Oh, it's probably in response to me getting mad at people that weren't listening. Yeah, but nobody's hashtagging, so I'm still with one point for the votes. $4.99 from Claire. Evolutionary schmevolutionary, mate. Hashtag Team Katy. When is Turf Wars coming back?
Yeah, so I think I'm in a burnout again. I just really couldn't face doing Turf Wars for the last couple of weeks. It's not coming back next week or the week after, so it'll be a little bit. I'm just gonna have a break. I think what I should do in future is just. This is the second time I've burnt out after 13 episodes. I think I should just aim for 12 episodes a season. I don't know. I'll see. Turf Wars will come back, and it's not going to be a big year-long gap like it was last time. I think I'll just do a soft reboot and do Turf Wars 5. I don't know. A few weeks, maybe after summer. We'll see. Depends what happens. I might feel the need to rant again. Small break.
This one's you.
Oh, $10 from El Martel. Thanks for sticking up for the NBs, guys. Happy Pride. # Team Ben and go fuck yourself, Jimmy. I often feel like me sticking up for non-binaries is really weak. Like, I mean, I just feel like the argument is like, I really care that non-binary people exist. And I'm like, why? I mean, why? And that's it. That's like the whole counter argument, isn't it? Like, I could argue for why we should support non-binary people in medical transition and legal documents. There's a lot of strong arguments from it, but there just isn't an argument against it. So I feel like the whole argument that I need to make is, and that's it. But no, I support non-binary people more actively than I've let across in today's arguing.
Yeah, it's always such a weird conversation. I hate that people will just go to such great lengths to be mean to people. Like, that's really all it is.
You know, some people only accept trans women and not trans men. Like, some people genuinely think that only trans women are valid and trans men are all fake. So, like, what? It's like, oh, well, I'm not one of these idiots who doesn't believe trans people exist, but I only think trans women exist. And then the next person's like, well, I'm not one of these idiots who doesn't believe in trans men, but I don't believe in... Like, just stop being a bellend. Who gives a shit? Your opinion is worthless. Just grow up.
Yeah, it literally does not affect you in any way. Like, calm down. Like, my being a trans man, like, my access to testosterone and all that, like, has no effect on your life. Like, just calm down. You'll be okay, I promise. Like, imagine, like having so much of your time spent just, like, being angry at somebody else's choice for their name and their pronoun. Like, that's what these people do. It's like you're spending, like, we're living rent-free in your brain, and you just spend so much time obsessing over how much you hate us existing. And, like, I don't think about you people at all. Like, I don't think about those people that don't want me to exist, like, except for when they're being an asshole to me on the internet. Otherwise, like, I don't think about them ever. I'm just living my life. I'm just being happy doing my own thing. Like, why can't they just live?
Yes, ridiculous.
Sounds miserable. $9.99 from Jeffrey Waldo. Love you folks. Everyone should think about your points. Thank you for your support, Jeffrey.
$5 from the Horsey Set. I got it this time. Okay, Katie, I'm entering the sweepstakes. Oh, I said everyone who does a # Katie gets a chance to win being my favorite. But the real reason is because Poppy showed up. I bribed them. That's why I'm winning, Ben. You should have thought of that.
I should have bribed them. You're correct. I still have that green card marriage I got to give away to somebody. So just kidding. No, I'm not going to auction away my green card marriage. That will not be happening on this show. But we will think of something else in the future. £5 from Samantha Patrick. # Team Dr. Ben. Thank you for the vote, Samantha. I know that you've been the MVP for Team Katy for a lot of episodes. I appreciate that you've defected over to the proper side, the possum side. Have
I lost a true believer? That's
maybe.
$5.99 from Random Dwarf 666. Even though there is an affection for Mayo, death metal is stronger. # Team Katy. Thank you both and the team, and happy Pride Month. Well, I accept that there are some slime apologists in the death metal community, but one day we would have routed you out from our community, so your time is numbered.
See, this is why I can't get into metal, because I like slime, so I'm just not allowed. I'm not allowed in that space. Yeah, too slimy.
There's probably even a pro-mayonnaise metal band. I bet there is. I'm going to find it.
Probably.
Oh, God, I regret YouTube searching that. Oh.
I want to know what specifically you searched, but I also don't want to know
mayonnaise
what
metal. You can search that in your own time.
Oh yeah, no. You got to turn safe search on for that.
Is this you, Ben, or me?
Did we? Okay, I'll read this one. $10 from Madison. Just got back from a vacation to Jaredtopia. 0 out of 10 would not recommend. Hashtag Team Katy. Hashtag free Jaredtopia. Yes, free Jaredtopia. Except boo for Team Katy.
I love the idea of like an American calling in and being like, "You can't just make your own country." It's like, are you a 1600s British person or what? Like, what are you talking about?
Right. It's like, we did that. It is pretty hilarious.
You can't just make up your own name, country. I mean, favorite band. $10 from Steve Ferris for science-based med. Hashtag Team Ben.
Hell yeah. Hashtag science-based medicine. That is our team. We're a lot of different teams. We're just compensating for the fact that we don't have a coherent team identity like Katy does. We've got multiple different team identities, and eventually we'll consolidate them into something meaningful.
Ben,
we will organize ourselves eventually.
My identity is respected by society, and yours isn't. So that's
mine isn't. Right. That's the problem. That's exactly the problem. £5 from Samantha Patrick. Hashtag Team Katy. Where do I look for the turf cartoon? I haven't been able to find it. I think is that the Oxfam one?
Yeah, if you scroll down my Twitter, I tweeted about it in the last 3 days.
It was
I haven't done
literally
that many tweets
on the show at the beginning of the show.
No, there's a full cartoon. There's it's like a web video, and they deleted the original, so I've retweeted someone who uploaded the original. $10 from Jason Jones. Slime over snot. Slime molds are so cool. Okay, slime molds are cool, but they're not really slimy, are they? I think it's a misnomer.
But there's no hashtag for the hashtag team slime, so it doesn't even count. Y'all, my team's got to get their hashtags in. We need to organize. Like Team Ben, we're gonna have a meeting and we're gonna organize. All right. Which actually maybe I should at the end of the super chats, I do want to show something that is coming up. If I'm allowed to. $4.99 from Ramona. Had a conversation with my therapist this week about getting bottom surgery. I was so anxious and it went smoothly. Hashtag Team Katy. Hashtag Team Snot Club. Congrats for your vote there, but more congrats for your bottom surgery. That's amazing. Very excited for you.
Yeah, exciting. Scary. You'll do it. Smash it. 50. I forgot the word for 50. Swedish Krona from Puck Tholinder. Love to all of you for destroying every argument, for disrespecting non-binaries. Hashtag Team Ben. Thanks, Puck.
$5 from Zach Lee. Hashtag Team Katy because I betrayed you last week. Ben, I want to clarify. I want a discussion to gather more info to help me decide for myself. Okay, cool. I'm glad that you mentioned that. Feel free to call in next time. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't giving you a false sense of hope for what I was going to offer you on the show. But yeah, thank you.
Ben's
for your
talking
support.
About offering citizenship to Jaredtopia, and he doesn't actually have that authority.
Oh yeah, no, I can't do that.
£5 from Jason Jones. Hashtag Hamtaro. I don't know what that means.
That goes to Ben, right? Hamtaro is the hamster anime from like the late 90s.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got the hamster. Yeah, it's a vote for me. Hell yeah.
All right, anime nerd Arden saves the day.
Hey, okay, look, that show actually was totally designed for girls. Me and my older cousin, who was a girl, used to watch it together all the time. I got made fun of so hard by my older cousins for liking it, and I didn't even care. I was like, the show's amazing. The hamsters are so cute. All the characters' eyes are adorable. I'll take it. Call me a nerd. I don't give a fuck.
Well, the only good anime is Pokemon, so...
Also, this is a random thing. Like Team Ben also, here's a fun little game for you that I never really mentioned. I am a beverage goblin. And so at any time in the episode, you'll probably see me drinking out of something. And then later on, I pick up something totally different and probably again, something totally different. I have 4 drinks on my desk right now. And so you can I Spy for future episodes that I'm on and just like watch to see how many drinks I have on my desk. That's our fun little game now.
One of them has poison.
Is this $5
from I'm doing it. Yeah, okay. Jan Mikhail Douglas. I would love to be #team graduate, but Katy is my #British metal babe. Thanks, Jan.
$10 from Mo Scoville. Let's even it out. #Team Ben. Yes, we're finally organizing a little bit. We're doing better. We still got some work to do, but we're getting there.
Love you, Mo.
£5 from John Harding. Go Team Snot. Cat HRT maybe. #Team Poppy. Thanks, John.
That's an interesting super chat there. Like, and I feel like sometimes the super chats directed at me are weird, but Katy, you're getting some weird hashtags today, and I'm loving it. It's Team Snot. You will forever be Team Snot.
In 10,000 years, aliens are going to discover this episode and watch it, and it's going to be their first ever experience of humanity, and they'll be like, "Oh, Team Snot Glob. That must be a normal thing they say to each other."
But if society determines it, then it must be true.
Exactly. It will replace hello within 10,000 years.
Yes.
Team Snot Glob.
$5 from Larry Fishman. Congratulations on your graduation and commission as a captain, Ben. #Team Katy. #Team Snot. I mean, it's going back to the trope where you congratulate one person and vote for the other. But yeah, thank you for the congrats.
Thanks, Larry. $4.99 from Marco Hernandez. Dr. Ben, have you considered making some content about dealing with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu injuries now that you're a doctor? #Team Ben.
I have not made a whole lot of jiu-jitsu content. The only jiu-jitsu content I made was about the issue with people thinking certain grapplers are trans, namely Gabby Garcia. But maybe I could consider making some jiu-jitsu content in the future. If people want to see that, I might be able to make it. Also, I think sometimes it's fun to pronounce BJJ as BJJ. So I can make some BJJ content maybe.
BJJ. Next.
Thanks, Marco.
This one's you.
I did it.
I got.
Or no, you did.
No, I did it because I guessed that BJJ was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Oh, that's right. $5 from What the Beck. Thanks to you both for constantly advocating for all of us. #new docs who are trans study trans healthcare. #Mr. Mukbang Mayo. Oh my God, am I gonna have to do a mukbang? That might be, that might be a good future punishment. It's a trend on the internet where people eat food on camera. And it's like as a Korean thing initially for like if you're alone, if you're eating lunch alone and want to feel like you're with somebody, you have a video of somebody else like just eating food and talking to the camera. And I guess it makes you feel less alone. So it's like it started off as that. And now it's this trend where now people will eat massive amounts of food. It's just like ridiculous quantities of food or ridiculously weird food. And it gets like millions of views and stuff. Like people just eating like an entire rotisserie chicken animal style, like with their bare hands. And it's like, it's very weird. But it makes a lot of money. So
it sounds like one of those things that probably has... somewhere along has it crossed the fetish line yet, and some people's does and some people's doesn't. I bet there's OnlyFans for it.
Oh, there definitely
I was
is.
like,
definitely
I could definitely do a show where I just eat food, but then I was like, nah, I'm gonna attract the weirdos.
Yeah, no, there's definitely that.
€5 from Thomas Donald Jacobs. Do either of you plan to read Dr. Jamie Rain's new book? Maybe do a review. #Team Ben, and thank you mods and Arden for doing such a good job. Yeah, that's who I forgot to thank. We should thank the mods who are amazing in chat, dealing with the occasional dickhead that we get, and also our call screener, who was Dragan, and he also did an amazing job. So thank you very much for call screening all those people.
Can I specifically shout out the mods for? Thank you for banning that guy who decided to misgender me when I corrected him on what a argument from an authority was, because he doesn't know. He still doesn't fucking know. But he just got mad and decided to misgender because I told him he was wrong.
Yeah, and thank you, Arden, for pointing that out. Because that's a big thing. The argument from authority, people don't actually call out that fallacy appropriately. So thank you, Arden, for mentioning that.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically become from stupid people a way to be like, well, yeah, but you're pointing to people who are experts in this thing who have all the evidence on it and they disagree with me. So that's an argument from authority. And it's like, no, we're appealing to the evidence that led the experts to their conclusion, not because they said so.
Right. And and every time I mention like being a doctor, it's not me saying I'm a doctor, so listen to me. That point is to say, let me lay out my argument. Like, this is what I study. Let me explain to you what I've learned so that you can understand it better. Like, it's meant to be a transition to like, here's what I've learned and we can have a discussion about it. So I don't make the fallacy like people claim I do. So is this one? I think it's me.
I'll do it. No, you do it.
£5 from Jack Cavey. Gonna go hashtag Team Ben this time for balance. Also proposing we start misnaming turfs from now on. Mayo Forstater. Team Epiphone. Epiphany. I want to say Epiphone.
It's the guitar. Epiphone it's the guitar make, so that's a vote for me. If you get the flipping hamster anime, I get the guitar references.
So, but they also explicitly said hashtag Team Ben at the beginning. So...
Okay, yeah, Ben overrules. All right, that's fair. $4.99 for Matthew Booth. Jimmy, I hope all your milk and yogurt goes sour. Hashtag Team Ben. Brutal.
Thank you for the vote.
But you might be able to pivot it into cheese, so maybe it would be a good thing.
Yes. 666 from Magical Plaid. You guys are awesome. It's so helpful to have this show and hear other trans people talking about trans issues. Hashtag Team Katie. Hashtag Team Snot. Hashtag go fuck yourself, Arden.
Yay. £5 from John Harding. Sympathy vote. Hashtag Team Ben. No, John, you were doing so good. None of this. He'll catch up. I've seen him win. He comes from behind and wins. That's what Ben does. Look, it's happening.
Coming from behind.
Guys, don't drop the ball now.
$10 from Vonrek. Hashtag Team Ben. See, yeah, like all of my votes, like every single episode, my votes just come in at the very end. And I think, again, it's the trans mass community that just like is delayed to everything. Or it's like, yeah, I'll take my sweet time getting there. It's fine.
$5 from Pandemonium. Hashtag Temben. Just because. I don't know what that means. Sorry, vote doesn't count.
It's still hashtag Ben, so it still counts.
It's hashtag Tem.
It still counts.
TEM.
$10 from Madison. Trans femme who defects to the trans mass side. Hashtag Team Ben. Hashtag Dark Ben. Yes, we're getting defectors. Yes, join the dark side for Angry Ben.
Oh, look at all these fucking Bens coming in. What is going on? This is not fair. I reckon he does this on purpose. He plays like, oh, I'm losing so badly. I need all your sympathy votes. And then his whole fucking team mobilizes 10 minutes before the end and then wins like double the points. 50 Swedish krona from serial traitor Puck Tholander. We are just slow at writing. Hashtag Team Ben. Yeah, your fucking Team Bens have been typing their comment out since the start of the show. It's taken 2.5 hours to get it out.
This is true. This is true. Because my name is so long. Ben is such a long name.
It's a good thing they have to cater it. It'd be an extra 45 minutes.
All right. Well, especially your last name. My goodness.
You think.
That's me. $5 from Taishi Kojima. Make your Geritopia jokes, but Rhodesia was a thing. Give the GCs a chance and they'll colonize somewhere. Sanction Geritopia, hashtag team Mr. Ben. It is Dr. Ben now, technically. Mr. is also acceptable.
$5 from Panda. Slime is better than snot. Hashtag team Ben. Sorry, Poppy. I mean, slime and snot are both disgusting to have in a sandwich, regardless. So you don't really want either on your arm either.
11 Canadian from Unsapien 2009. Dr. Ben, hashtag for you, hashtag Dr. Ben. This is
now they're flipping winning. Like, this is just ridiculous.
Good job, everybody. We're doing great. We're still gonna have our meeting later to discuss how we're gonna do better in showing up punctually to things. But we're doing all right. We're making our comeback. We're still gonna get more organized though, because we can do better. I know we can do better.
$13.99 from Nilly Wilson. Love to see Ben providing such a great medical perspective to these issues, and Katy calling people dickheads with that English accent. That's the two things we contribute. Ben contributes knowledge and science, and I contribute the word dickhead in a British accent. Music to my ears. Hashtag Team Ben.
Yeah, I'm glad Katy knows her contribution to the world and how she's valuable. You went through like a whole engineering degree, and your actual contribution is the word dickhead. So it's going great for you. Did you Did you learn that word in engineering school? Is that what did they teach you about dickheads in engineering school? Or
engineers don't talk to people. Come on, use your brain.
That's true. £5 from Samantha Patrick. I tried doing a double vote when Luxander was on, but it didn't go through last time. Hashtag Team Dr. Ben. Thank you for your vote, Samantha, even though you voted for both of us at some point in this episode.
£10 from Helen Lawson. Can we have a video clip of Katy telling people to kick a baby? I'm sure that a gender critical person has already posted that on Twitter somewhere. Anti-mayo activists are evil and people should know this. Hashtag slime. Someone ban Helen.
Helen, you can come to the dark side. It's fine. We will welcome you with open arms. £5 from Pancaking On. Now that NBs aren't real, can they now walk through walls and stuff? Sounds awesome. Hashtag Team Ben. Hashtag Big Mayo. Yeah, I guess like maybe they aren't actually physical entities and are more spiritual constructs. So I don't know. Maybe we can study non-binary ability to defy the laws of physics. I'm ready for the study. Let's go.
As long as most of society believes it, that's all that matters. Mm-hmm. If I disappeared for a sec, then it's because someone stood on the refresh key. £5 from Samantha Patrick. Hashtag Team Katy. Yes, thank you, Samantha. Who is your favorite Pokemon out of every Pokemon? It is Bulbasaur, number one for a reason. Best Bulbasaur.
I've seen her Bulbasaurs. Which sounds very dirty when I say it that way. I don't know why that sounds so dirty, but I have seen Katy's Bulbasaurs, all of her Bulbasaurs. Well, maybe not all of her Bulbasaurs, but I've seen a lot of your Bulbasaurs. Oh, okay, so I didn't see your newest one. But yeah, she does have a lot of Bulbasaurs. $5 from Zach Lee. Hashtag Team Ben, because I'll always be Team Ben at heart. Sorry, Katy, I still love you. You're both awesome. You've been denied.
£5 from John Harding. Feeling guilty. Hashtag Team Katy. Thanks, John. I'm glad I peer pressured you into voting for me.
£5 from John Harding. Still felling bad. Hashtag Team Katy. You're getting a lot of. John. See, now you're getting sympathy votes.
No, 50 Swedish kronas from Puck Tholander again. Next time we have to start writing before the show starts. Hashtag Team Ben. I reckon Puck sent that 3 weeks ago, and he's just finally finished typing it for the show 3 weeks ago.
Right. £5 from John Harding. Also for the baby kicking vid. Hashtag Team Katy.
See, now I feel like we gotta put a stop to this. If John had spent $50, he would have gotten 1 vote, but he's just rapid firing votes for Katy at $5. I don't
It's
know
the strategy.
I think that's fair.
It's the strategy. Yeah.
Team Katy is the more intelligent voters.
That's the show, folks. Those are the votes. So Ben has won. I will not be accepting any more votes whatsoever for the rest of the show.
What?
No, if we get one more, we both have to do it though. Oh man.
Oh, that's one away from victory. Now. I'll tell Jimmy you cut the show at 49. He'll be very grumpy.
Yeah.
The next vote, it wins it.
One more.
Yeah, the next vote decides it, doesn't it?
Feed him some
be
cheese
either a draw
or something, and I'll be set. I'm not afraid of Jimmy.
We just need one more. We're not going to end the show. No one's allowed to leave. Lock the doors. No one's allowed out until we get one more vote to decide whether it's a draw or whether it's Ben's win. So the best I can hope for is a draw.
Well, if it's and if it's 50, we both have to do the punishment though. So we both have to do the free Jaredtopia video. If we get 50.
Yes! Thanks, John. Oh no! Oh no!
There we go. €5 from Thomas Donald Jacobs. Katy works for Big Mustard. # Team Ben. And there we go. Our strategy has worked, folks.
I look forward to your videos on Jaredtopia.
Okay, I can't wait.
I'm gonna ham this up. It'll be great. It'll be so great.
Anyway, thanks for watching the show, everyone. I think it was a good show. We had some long calls, but I think both of them were full of good arguments from us and not from the opposers. I don't know. It's a good all-round show, even though we didn't get many callers in. Come back next week and watch 2 inferior hosts, Arden and Luxander. It'll be good. You know, it's good to hear from people who aren't me and Ben because we talk too much. Ben, do you have any closing words?
Don't be an asshole to people. If someone says they prefer to be called a certain thing, it's probably nice to, respect them. And that's going to be my closing words for today.
Kind of, but, you can also be an asshole to everyone. That's acceptable. Yeah, cool. See you around next time. Bye-bye, everyone. Get fucked. See you later. Yay.
Thanks to Grimbeard, Larry Fishman, Nilly Wilson, and Alyssa for sending in votes at the last minute. It did not change the outcome, but you guys for those votes. And